Good evening, Cerrito residents and the member of our community. I'd like to call to order the Thursday, October 24, 2024, 7 p.m. City Council and Success Agency regular meeting. The invocation will be led by Harold Bazarian, President of Cerritos Optimist Club, and the pledge will be led by Girl Scout Troop 313 by Mrs. Bazarian. Are they here? Okay. All right. So may you all rise. I'd like to have the invocation first by Harold Bazarian. Yeah, let's do the invocation first, please. Thank you.
Good evening, City Council members and residents of Cerritos. O God, give your love of justice to those who rule our land. Help them to rule with wisdom and compassion so that the poor and the powerless may be treated fairly and with justice. Open their ears to the cries for help from those caught in cycles of poverty, abuse, or violence. Give them wisdom to know how best to respond, and courage to do the right thing, even when it may not be popular. Under their rule, may the people flourish, may there be lasting peace and plenty for all, and God bless the city of Cerritos and its residents and city council. Amen.
The Girl Scout can come for a pledge.
Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Please face the flag. Put your right hand over your heart.
Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all. May all be seated. Would you girls like to say your name and what grade are you in, one by one?
This is Troop 313. I am Abby, and I am in 4th grade.
Very good.
My name is Cora, and I'm in 3rd grade. My name is Emily, and I'm in 2nd grade.
Ooh.
My name is Abigail, and I'm in 6th grade.
My name is Holly, and I'm in 2nd grade.
Ooh.
My name is Audrey, and I'm in 3rd grade.
My name is Izzy, and I'm in 5th grade.
My name is Ella, and I am 6th grade.
My name's Paris, and I'm in 6th grade.
Thank you all for coming. Thank you. Madam City Clerk, will you please conduct the roll call?
Council and Agency Member Barrows.
Present.
Council and Agency Member Johnson.
Present.
Council and Agency Member Yokoyama.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem and Vice Chair Vo.
Present.
Mayor and Chair Solanki.
Present. Thank you. 5A and B. Thank you for your attendance at tonight's meeting. State law and our, I guess, we got to do presentation first, sorry. Let's go to 5A, presentation. Tonight we have business spotlight from Cerrito Medical Center. Since 1992, Cerrito Medical Center has provided a wide variety of medicine service to Cerrito residents and surrounding communities. Cerrito's Medical Center was started by Dr. John S. Kim. After finishing college and a family medicine residency program at a Long Beach Memorial Center, Dr. Kim returned to Cerritos at vibrant community and established his medical practice. Cerritos Medical Center offers the following medical service to its patients: podiatric service, internal medicine, women's health service, employment, physical, and aesthetic medicine. Cerritos Medical Center is located at 11911 Artesia Boulevard, Suite 101, here in Cerritos. Their office phone number is 562-404-7622. Their website is cerritosmedicalcenter.com. I'd like to invite Dr. Kim and Cerrito Medical Center to presentation area. Thank you, John. City of Cerrito would like to present you the proclamation, and would you like to say anything?
Oh, perfect, of course. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and City Council, and honorable guests and residents of City of Cerritos. It's truly a pleasure for me to be here tonight, and I do appreciate the recognition that's given by the City Council as well as the Mayor and the City. I have been in practice since 1991 and actually started the business in 1992, as you stated. But my relationship with Cerritos goes back many years. When I was a junior in high school, in Schur High School in Montebello, I had the opportunity through Regional Occupational Program to attend Cerritos College as a high school student. And there I completed a medical assisting course during the summertime. And they bussed us back and forth from Montebello to Cerritos College. And after finishing that, I had a chance to go off to college, to UC Berkeley, but when I came home, I realized that my family had changed their church attendance to Cerritos. And that's when Cerritos Presbyterian Church was founded, not that long ago. And our family was one of the first attendees. And after finishing up my undergraduate studies at UC Berkeley, I went to medical school at UC San Francisco. And then I came down for residency program at UC Irvine affiliated Long Beach Memorial residency program. But it was always my dream to be able to return to Cerritos to provide medical care to the residents and the people in the surrounding communities. And I was blessed to have that dream come true. After 3 years of residency at Long Beach Memorial, I was able to start my private practice in 1992 and finally opened doors for practice in 1992 at that time. And since then, I've been honored to serve the residents and the surrounding community population in my medical practice. I'm in private practice. I am in my own practice. I've had multiple associates and students and residents and other medical students, as well as nurse practitioner students rotating through my office to learn. I'm currently a faculty at UC Irvine School of Medicine, and I still enjoy a full-time practice in family medicine. And so I'm very pleased to be here. Many years ago, my practice was founded with the help of my family members, as well as some key people, including my sister Annie, who was my first office manager, and then my wife Kathy was a very integral part of helping my practice grow. And my office manager Julie, who's sitting in the back, has been with me for over 20 years. So I'm proud to be able to serve the community for the past 33 years. And so I do appreciate this recognition. And I'm a part of the Cerritos Optimist Club, and I know a lot of the current council people from that as well. And so, and I also am an active participant in the Cerritos Performing Arts Center as well since its conception. So I feel like I'm part of the community, and I do appreciate your continued support, and I want to continue to be able to serve our community for many more years to come to my utmost of abilities. And so my practice is still open and welcoming new patients, and I do a comprehensive family medicine, and I do have the opportunity to start up a very new aesthetics med spa upstairs in my practice called June Med Spa as well. So for those of you who want to stay healthy and youthful appearing, we do have some services available for you as well. Okay, thank you for this time together, Mayor Solanki.
Thank you. Would you like to invite your family and your wife to for a photo? I'd like to have my council colleagues come for a photo.
On up. City Council. Annie, Julie, Kelly.
I was busy videotaping.
Julie. Hi, how are you?
Thank you so much.
Can you step down? There we go.
John, you want to come down?
Can you see us?
Yep. Okay. Five photos. Ready? 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Oh,
Great, thank you so
thank
much.
you. Thank you
Thank you for this opportunity.
Good to see you.
Nice to meet you.
Mr. Bruce Barrows. Pleasure.
No, it's good.
Thank you
to
so
meet
much.
I appreciate it.
And you are proof that you're staying looking young.
Oh,
I know.
Yokoyama, nice to see you, sir. Go Bears.
And
Go Bears is right.
one more presentation we have from our assemblywoman, so he's going to present.
Probably pay the rent.
Chopak, would you want to give it to
All I want to do is take a picture.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
3 photos. Ready? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 2. 1, 2, 3. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Next we have is the Cerritos, City of Cerritos is proud to recognize the Friends of Cerritos Library as a part of a nation Friends of Library Week, which occurs this year from October 20 to 26. The city has city has enjoyed a long relationship with Cerritos Library's friends, and the group does an outstanding job in providing support to Cerritos Library, the countless hours of volunteer service and helping to fund activities such as library summer reading program, art and writing contest for students and special events throughout the year. Joining us this evening to receive the proclamation in front of Cerritos Library resident Siva Bhatt. We would like to present you the proclamation. And Siva, would you like to say a few words?
Thank you so much, Mayor. Thank you so much, City Council, the city staff, Annie, the library, all our volunteers, our board members, and the community. As always, thank you for supporting us. You may think that a small frame like that is just a frame, but let me tell you, that keeps us going the entire year. We are so excited and so motivated to do more programs. Before I begin and say a few more words, I want to introduce my board. We have Charlene Rao, she's our secretary. We have Eric Cardozo, who is our vice president memberships. The other board members couldn't be here. Please know that they are very, very thankful to all of you. Now that I'm here, I just want to mention a few things. There are 3 dates I want to remind all of you. One is our library book sale is coming up this Saturday, 26th, 11 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. All variety of used books will be there. I promise you, none of the books are over the price of $2. Also wanted to remind you and take this opportunity actually, every year we recognize our volunteers with a appreciation day as well as a holiday mixer. Now, this is, of course, for our volunteers to show them how much we appreciate them. We give them awards, but also for all you community members and everyone who wants to know what we do, who we are, and how you can help us. This is a great opportunity. So this December 10th, Tuesday, 6 p.m. in the Skyline Room, we will be having this volunteer appreciation as well as a holiday mixer. So please join us. If you are not a member and if you want to know who we are, no hassle, just text me, call me, or email any of us. We will be more than happy to have you and talk to you. The last reminder is I saved this one for the best. This year, we started something called Writers Festival and a high tea. We had such a wonderful response to this program that we're bringing this back again in 2025, March 29th. What this program is, it's a writers' festival with about 6 authors. It's a panel setting, but you get to meet them one-on-one. You get to talk to them. You talk to them, discuss about their books, ask them questions, sign your books, and just a wonderful program in a setting of a high tea, which is, let me tell you, it was a very royal affair. So please do come. Just a reminder, it is a fundraiser, and all the profits definitely go back directly to our library. So thank you so much, and I look forward to seeing all of you, and I welcome all of you to this event as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Shiva. Congratulations. And can I have my council colleague for photo up?
Photos again. Ready? 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5.
Thank you. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thanks for all the work you guys do.
Shiva, just wait. I think Joe Pack, is he gone or is he still here?
Oh, he's right here.
Oh, he's here. Okay. Okay. It's, I guess it's from the assemblyman. Joe probably has to have a picture.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Take a picture now, since you're here.
So I get paid, huh?
Yeah.
3 photos. Ready? 1, 2, 1, 2, and 3. All right. Thank you for your service.
Thank you so much.
The next presentation we have is the City of Cerritos is proud to join communities across the country in observing Hindu Heritage Month, observed each October. Hindu Heritage Month is a time to celebrate the rich heritage of Hindu in the United States and to recognize the important culture, historical, and spiritual contribution that Hindu communities have made in this country and in the communities as well at home. The city expresses its gratitude for the invaluable contribution that the Hindu community continues to make in Cerritos, which plays a significant role in enhancing the city's rich culture, diversity, and fostering a vibrant, inclusive environment for all residents. So, is Bhargava is here or is not here yet?
He's stuck in the traffic.
Okay.
He cannot wait, I can accept.
Okay. Okay, so I guess Bhargava is not here. So would you like to say a few words?
Yes, sure. Hi, I'm Anita Patel. My husband Bhargav Patel is the president of Sriji Mandir Cultural Center located in Bellflower. Thank you very much, Mayor, City Council, and City of Cerritos for recognizing Sriji Mandir and the Cultural Center And we are in a phase of remodeling it, and our new phase gonna open in mid 2025. I would like to invite all of you for our inauguration at that time. I'm sure Mayor will inform everybody. He's right here. So thank you very much, Mayor, and the city again. He's right here. I'm glad he made it in time.
Lata, would you want to join too?
Excuse me, it's too much traffic. There's an accident on 91.
Thank you very much. And next year, you all will be invited.
So Jofrak is here. And then actually we had one for Hindu heritage and then also for the temple for Sriji Mandir. I'll give that Bhargavai too. Might as well you pass it to the temple. Yes. Would you like to say a few words on that?
Yes, I would like to say this. Can I just put it here? Sure. No. What is that? That's for I'm from Assembly, Mr. Uncle, sir. Oh, okay. Okay. I really appreciate it. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you. I'd like to thank you, Honorable Mayor Naresh Solanki, entire city councilman, for celebrating the Hindu Heritage Month. I represent the Sriji Mandir, which is a Hindu temple and cultural center. On behalf of all the Board of Trustees and Mandir Management Board, I would like to invite all of you for our new Hindu year, which is called Diwali and Sal Mubarak. So we temporarily moved to the new location in Little India on Pioneer Boulevard. So please, I give open invitation to the whole council and the honorary mayor. So please come and celebrate our Indian New Year. We are located in the Bellflower area. We are building the brand new 10,000 square feet new cultural center and the temple, and it will be grand opening in 2025. I extend on behalf of all the temple members to invite whole council and honorary mayor to come during our grand opening also. It's an open invitation, and I'll come back again to give personal invitation when the time comes. I really appreciate for celebrating the diversity in the city, and keep up the good job. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Bhargava. Here you go. Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay. Next item is a public comments and suggestion. Before we start, thank you for your attendance at tonight's meeting. State law and our local rules do not support the use of profanity, hateful speech. What? It's okay, I'll just do this now. Hateful speech or conduct that disturb the conduct of this city business meeting. If necessary, I will issue an initial warning and call for a recess to restore order. After that, the chamber may be cleared. If disturb continues, next I will call upon the acting city clerk to provide additional information concerning public comments.
Thank you, Mayor. The following comments pertain to all public comment periods on tonight's agenda. The mayor will open public comments at the appropriate times on the agenda. Please be prepared to approach the podium and begin your comments at the time you are called. Public comments should be directed to the City Council and made only from the podium during your turn. Please respect each speaker and refrain from any disruptive behavior or speech during their comment time. Public comments will be limited to 3 minutes per speaker. Agenda item 6, public comments, should be limited to items on the consent calendar, closed session, and items not listed on the agenda but that are within the subject matter jurisdiction of the legislative body. This concludes the public comment information, and the meeting is now returned to the mayor to open public comments under item 6.
Okay, anyone would like to speak on the item 6? I know I bypassed the 5B, I'll bring it back again. But anyone would like to speak on this item? Do we have any cards, any speakers, or we do? Okay, I'll call Cynthia Crisp.
Good evening. My name is Cynthia Crisp, and I have lived in my Cerritos house for 39 years. During the last 2 years, my neighbors and I have experienced a sharp increase in crime in our neighborhood. We believe that our neighborhood has been targeted for crime. To our knowledge, none of these people committing these crimes have been caught or held accountable. Most of us have home alarms and security cameras. Our neighborhood watch program is robust, and we are constantly vigilant and aware of our surroundings. However, this crime continues to occur. Yesterday, for example, another house in our neighborhood was robbed, but the burglars escaped before the police could arrive. During the month of October, we have experienced 2 burglaries, 4 attempted car thefts, and 10 calls that have been made by us to the police station regarding suspicious activity. We have followed all the recommendations for a safe neighborhood, but are having no success. We feel unsafe in our Cerritos neighborhood. We need help from the City of Cerritos and the Cerritos Sheriff's Department so we no longer are living in fear. Thank you.
Thank you. Christy Borza. My neighbor.
Okay, now I'm starting to feel a little bit more comfortable. My name is Christy Borza. I've been a Cerritos resident for a long time. Our family has lived here since 1969. I'm proud. So we have our neighbors here from Sunray neighborhood, which is Cerritos West. The major street is Studebaker and is between South and 195th. We are putting in lots of extraordinary efforts to try to have our neighborhood peaceful. Not keep peaceful, but to try to have. However, our spirits get low and our well-being feels violated and vulnerable to theft at any time in 24 hours. Like Cindy was saying, just yesterday, we have an example of extraordinary efforts our neighbors put in. A neighbor received an alarm from an app on their phone of a burglary in process. She relays the message to our neighborhood watch group text. Then we put our resources to work, going to the home, having video for the police to look at the car description and license plate, hoping it's enough to stop these people. The obvious emotional text, calls, and in-person conversations during and after a couple of days, especially when we receive multiple burglaries in a day or days, it spells out trauma response, which means our neighborhood needs something more than what we are currently doing, something more powerful than we are doing for ourselves. We need to speak on this in detail and with more time to hear about the calamity we feel almost every day. An example of a text was sent to me today. It said, "We are being targeted because of easy in and out of location and access to the freeway. You can use Cindy's burglary, Dr. Dion's burglaries, the Keisha's burglary, and it's just not slowing down. Please say those words to them. We need help. The recent Benfield burglary, and the mayor's house burglary, and Ingrid, that's 6 just that we know of in the course of a year or 2. It's unacceptable. 6 burglaries, guys. You tell them that. That is why we are demanding a gated community. We have become close. We have stayed connected. We have improvised. We have invested. We have shed blood, sweat, and tears to try to have our community peaceful. Now it's your time. The saying I'd like to use is actions over time. We have put in all of our actions over time for more than a year for safety and peace. We as a neighborhood have improved, but the crime is worse. So it's your time to put in your actions into place. And please get our gate up and peace back to the Sunray neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you. Teddy Lloyd. I don't know, do we have anyone else speaking from that group? No. Can I have Daryl or Mr. Drew can speak about these two items, please? Two speakers who just said.
Yes, Mayor Solanke, thank you for this opportunity to address this issue. It's a very important one, and thank you for the residents coming out here and expressing their opinion. Absolutely, crime has increased countywide. It's up about, property crime that is up about 3%, and in the city it's up about 7%, so there is a increase. It's down historically, but that means nothing to people who've been victimized. And so the very first thing I would say, we have a very unique opportunity right now is to vote. Because last year the Sheriff's Department arrested over 1,000 people, and many times they are issued a citation and released. Oftentimes the people that we do arrest for residential burglaries have been arrested many times before, and it's sort of a catch and release thing that's very frustrated. But specifically to your area, after this council meeting, I'll be happy to come by personally and speak with you and see what we can do about it. There is no community in California or in the country that's devoid of any type of crime. I mean, there's crime in everywhere. The city of Cerritos remains very, very safe, but we do have a higher than average property crime that happens in the city because there's a lot of nice things here, and crooks know that. Last time I looked at the Sheriff's Department statistics, over $9 million worth of property was stolen out of the city of Cerritos. And that's why the criminals keep coming here. So what we want to do is work with you to harden the target and to make it very difficult or dissuade them. And I'll work with you personally to see how we can do that. Captain Drew Strong is here. We do have, as a city, not only have a basic patrol group, we have a special operations team, if you would, that goes out and handles all of our problems. So we do take them offline, and we will put them in saturation patrol areas like that. But the most effective way that we found is in a robust neighborhood watch. So again, we'll take a look at it. But residential burglaries has always been an issue within the city of Cerritos. I was first assigned here as a lieutenant back in 1997. That was the #1 problem then, and it remains the #1 problem now for all the same reasons. But we'll take a look at that specifically and see how we can address that for you.
Well, it's something got to be done. I mean, it's my house, their house. A lot of homes are getting burglarized that area, and somehow our neighborhood feels like a west side is being abandoned. And we got car dealership over there, we got mall over there, and not enough security. All those cars comes in our neighborhood and come and test drive, even though there's signage. And I don't know what else could be done, but there has to be some kind of action that's to be taken. So I don't know if Captain Drew had some idea or suggestion too.
Before he speaks, if I can just add one other thing, and you're absolutely right, because the Los Cerritos Center is over there. So we do have a large number of deputies who spend a predominant amount of time on the west side because of the mall over there.
Yeah, but Daryl, I have not seen one sheriff take a tour in that area.
Yes, and we'll make sure that happens. The reason why I was mentioning that is when we do receive calls of suspicious people and or reports of crime, the response times are very quickly because a lot of the deputies spend their time on the west side over there because of the malls and the shopping centers. But you're absolutely right. It is a problem, and that's why we, as a city, and you fund Sky Night and the additional deputies over there. But we encourage everybody, anytime you see suspicious activity, to report it to the sheriffs, and they'll be right out there. But
Okay, I think Mr. Wu has some questions.
Well, let the captain speak first. I think he was up
Okay,
next.
go ahead, yeah.
Yeah, so we've we've heard our residents loud and clear. We're putting some measures together to help mitigate that problem. We are aware that there's issues around the city. Bouchard's another one. You know, we're looking into these particular areas. I don't want to divulge some of the plans that we have to help fight this, as not to jeopardize them at this point in time. But there's cars out there marked. There'll be cars out there that are not marked. We're working on it, and rest assured that you will be seeing more patrol cars in that particular area in the future, as well as even volunteers on patrol. I've been in contact with them. They're going to be going through those areas and checking things out too, letting us know what's going on. I really encourage you guys to give us a call if you see anything suspicious. I was just in a meeting the other day where the water meter guy got stopped multiple times. If that's what it takes, you know, he was a true water meter reader, but if that's what it takes to keep the city safe, then we'll keep coming out and talking to everybody every time that you guys call. So we are aware that there is an issue there. Historically, it has been higher, but that doesn't mean it's not important right now. So we're going to look into it, and we're going to work through it, and we're going to work with you guys to fix the problem, okay?
Thank you, Mr. Wu.
Thank you, Captain. Thank you, Mayor, for letting me speak. To the residents that came out tonight, I appreciate your information. You know, what's nice about having a local council is we're all part of that community, and we understand your fear. You're not the first group that's come, at least to my attention, in regards to your concern for safety and possibly gated communities. I've actually just had a meeting with another community that's central Cerritos that's also requesting the same thing. And so, not to minimize your neighborhood, but like the captain and Daryl said, this problem is not just citywide, it's countywide, and I want to even say statewide, right? So, but what we can do here locally is make sure our residents feel safe, and right now you're not feeling that, and that's a concern to all of us up here. At some point, you're probably thinking we're just giving you lip service, right? Over and over and over again. Let's just be honest. But the reality is here, sometimes you don't know what we're trying to do, and sometimes the roadblocks that we encounter when we try to do it. One of the things that we have is we're a contract to city with the sheriff's department, right? That's two different jurisdictions. And I'll tell you, I've had meetings with, this council has had meetings with the sheriff's department requesting more units, requesting more resources, because this city is willing to pay for it. It's just the resources aren't there for them to give it to us here. Because if they just primarily gives it to us, some other city will lose that resources. So they have to play fair and equal and spread it throughout the county. But that's still not an excuse for our residents here to feel in fear for their safety every single day, right? So, we're pushing the sheriff's department. We should be pushing harder because right now it's starting to get to a point where our residents are starting to feel it even more than ever. We're installing outburst cameras, which is the automated license plate readers finally, right? And one of the things that I've been trying to push and this council's been trying to push is a drone program for us here as well to help the sheriff's department to have resources to deal with crime that happens in real time. So things like that we're trying to push. It's just we kind of hit a red tape sometimes at the county level, but we're working through that. So the reason I say that is because I don't want you to keep on thinking we're giving you lip service over and over and over again, because I'll probably feel that way too. Sometimes I feel that way because I'm trying, and sometimes I feel that way when other resources tell me they can't help our city, right? So we're pushing really hard. It's frustrating though, because being scared to live in your own community is not a good feeling. And you're not the only ones, right? And I'm not trying to minimize your neighborhood, but this is a citywide problem. And we're doing everything we can with the resources that's available to us. And I'll tell you right now, that resources is very low at the county level. And we're working at only, 66% still? Or did we go up finally?
No, we're quite a bit higher than that as far as the station goes. We're at about 65 here. So we're not doing bad staffing-wise. We're always trying to bring more people over here. Obviously, they have to put them wherever the needs are in the county, right? So other stations have shortages as well. So they'll put the deputies when they come out of custody or when they come to patrol at whichever particular station is the lowest. That's how they look at it percentage-wise. But we're filling all of our vacancies right now, and they're out there on patrol. And we know about this issue. We're gonna hit it hard. So rest assured that we're gonna put some resources together and work it out.
And just to clarify, I said 66, you said 65. So did you mean? Oh, you're talking about bodies. I'm talking percentage. I got you. Okay. Yeah. Because I said 66%, you said 65. So just to clarify that. Okay, but at the end of the day, though, what's unique about our city, though, compared to every other city that's contracted by the Sheriff's Department is we have our own sheriff station. Our own sheriff's deputy responds only to our city. The resources are primarily specific to our city only. And those are the plus. So just imagine how it is at the other contract cities, right? So I'm not trying to minimize, but I still feel that we're one of the safer cities in the area, but we still haven't met the expectation of our residents, though. So thank you for coming out. That's all I have to say.
Mr. Mayor, may I offer just one other comment?
Yes.
Cautionary tale, and to residents, anyone who might be at home too. Traditionally, November, December, we always see a little spike in residential burglaries. That's to be anticipated because of the holidays. We have a lot of people here who travel, and then you start to see people shopping. So there's presents in the house. Some people give currency. They go to the bank, they withdraw money, and they put it in envelopes, and they give it as gifts. So typically in November and December, we always see more activity. So this is the time to be hyper vigilant because of the holidays, the extra property that's in the homes, and the fact that a lot of other people have visitors that are over, family members and friends, and sometimes it's hard to tell who normally lives there because you'll see cars that you don't normally see because of the holidays and out-of-town relatives and those sort of things. So again, be hyper vigilant and contact the Sheriff's Department anytime you see something suspicious.
Thank you. I have
Mayor, can I make a comment, please?
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Thanks. Perhaps we can have an agendized matter on this very important public safety discussion. Perhaps we can agendize it so that we can hear a complete, detailed report from the city manager, and then that will allow us, the city council, to have a robust discussion with the city and ask them questions. Perhaps the agenda report can give the more complete details of what's being presented in a summary manner from our public safety manager and our captain. And then also that will give them time to prepare solutions, propose solutions, options. And then that way we, the council, can have that robust discussion, ask questions, and we can maybe problem solve this and make things safer. And also it gives the residents a chance to read the agenda report ahead of time, and maybe they'll choose to come to the meeting and give public comment on that agenda report. So my thought is more than just the two speakers came to speak about this.
No, there
very
are a few more.
Yeah,
I'm going to
but I mean, the two that spoke about this matter, I see actually a group of residents, and this is a very important matter. Safety is a priority for this city council, and I think an agendized item can potentially bring some comfort to the residents while also bringing options and solutions.
I totally agree with you, Frank. We do need to take some action on this, and maybe we do need to put an agendized item. Yeah.
Comments.
Yes.
Actually, this was a consensus that I was going to ask later in the evening, but I think it may be appropriate now to bring it up. All of us up here, our priority is public safety for our residents. A few years back, Councilmember Vo brought forth a consensus regarding the feasibility of establishing a city prosecutor to prosecute misdemeanor offenses committed in our city. But unfortunately, the report back that we received that it would not be feasible to establish a city prosecutor due to the requirement for obtaining authority from the LA County District Attorney's Office. But earlier this week, I had a conversation with Bruce, and he and I thought it would still be a good idea to move forward about perhaps going through the legislative process. Bruce and Robert, our city manager, talked with our consultants up in Sacramento, and also Bruce had conversations with mayors of 3 cities, and all are very supportive. Our consultants are also supportive of perhaps going through the legislative process. There's many ways that we can tackle the problem. It's just that it's trying to get through the hoops, right? And we're all very strong proponents of local control. I know, Chung, you've said that many times. Local control. We always need to have local control. So I think going through the legislative process was a perfect example of having local control on prosecuting crimes that affect our residents. I think it's something we need to take a look at. I'd like to offer a council consensus, but I think maybe, Bruce, you have some comments on this?
Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You know, first I should point out, you're not alone in having your houses broke into. You may recall when Jim Edwards was on the council, they stole a 400-pound safe right through a window. And my house was broke into, as were a number of my neighbors. And ours just happened to have happened on my anniversary with my wife. We were out to dinner, and they must have been watching, because while we were out to dinner, before we had our dessert, you know, our neighbors were there, the sheriff's department was there, you know, and they spent a good half hour in the house, ransacking the house. So, you know, you never feel safe when that happens. And this is something that we've talked about in the past, about how to pursue legislation, because the district attorney's office in LA County, there's 10 cities that are allowed to prosecute for misdemeanors or, you know, some other minor crimes. Somewhere a number of decades ago, there's something that was passed that restricted us from going ahead and enforcing that. And we all know that Prop 36 that, you know, we're voting for right now is trying to, you know, reestablish going after those crimes. I have personally been receiving emails 2, 3, or 4 times a week about the houses broke into, or, you know, I live just north of here, so right next to the town center. And there's been cars broken into, shops broken into, or just, you know, very similar crimes we see at the mall. So anyway, the conversation we had with our lobbyists, you know, trying to pursue how to go about this, you know, this is at the very front end of taking control. There was a bill that crashed and burned, AB 2309, if you wanted to look it up. And that was exactly what Manhattan Beach was trying to do. The only thing Manhattan Beach didn't do that I'm aware of is reach out to get other cities to help put pressure on Sacramento. And then inside the language, the final one out of about 7 email, you know, files that I had, it points out that there's a difference between contract cities and general law cities. And our contract's a contract city. Our authority comes from the state constitution. And they're saying that we have to have in our charter, and I think it says expressly, we have to have language that sets that for a prosecutor. And I have a question for Bill. In our charter, section 1102, it talks about that we can prosecute. And I have a hunch you're going to say it applies to the language if the specific parts of the charter are violated. But 1102, if maybe, Chung, if you can read it out loud when you get to it, it's only 2 sentences long, if I remember right. But if, you know, what I was looking at is trying to see if we can get it. First off, we had other cities interested in doing this, and we do. So the next step is, as you know, when Linda and I were talking, she's our legislative chair, and I wanted to be sure she's included in the process, because this is something that we used to do all the time, and be more active, work at the state or the federal level, and go ahead and try and get things to happen in addition to what we have with Prop 36 right now, or the vote for the DA, because those are the 2 things that tie in directly to what we're talking about. Because right now, no one feels that there's any consequence if they break into your house and steal a little bit or a lot, and whether it's $950 or $40,000, as several houses have had more and more stolen out of them. So, you know, Darryl, you mentioned $9 million over, I'm not sure what the time period is, but that's a significant amount of cash that we had to earn and spend after taxes. So I think if people understand that, if the odds are that they get arrested here and we prosecute, I know there's some issues to deal with about if they have to go to jail, what happens, and that they brought up, from Sacramento. But there's I think a process that we can start to help reverse, the trend, and this is the right time to do it, and we have a deadline to do it. And just let the rest of the council know, we have to have the language done and supported by our local cities, contract cities, the League of Cities for the LA division. This has to be submitted in Sacramento by the end of January. Then it has to be filed by the end of February before it's considered. And so I'm sure it's going to be months after I go off council in April. It's going to be a lot of work on our part, going back and forth and coordinating with other cities. But this is something that can be done. We've done it before. We've taken the lead, and we need to be sure that we can have. Bill used to work with a colleague of his, Dan Slater, that drafted our AB 1342 that brought in $155 million. That was a 7-year process to do it. Hopefully this won't take 7 years. But Bill, I don't know who on staff, if we have anyone there anymore, that can draft something that would be as successful as what Dan Slater did. So that's something that we have our lobbyists looking into, and I want to be sure that, when you walk out here tonight, you're looking at that also. But anyway, I do support your request for a consensus item.
Yeah, so yes, I'd like to request for council consensus to direct the city manager to move forward on working with our lobbyists in Sacramento, and as well as an attorney that can work on legislation to give us local control on prosecution of offenses committed in our city.
I'm in support.
Thank you.
concur.
Thank you.
Okay, and the last thing, Frank, if you don't mind, there's one of the conferences I went to years ago, and I've asked for many years. Daryl, you may be aware of software that when a call comes in and you dispatch an officer out to it, and it shows the time, the call came in, the actual time they showed up, and when I was receiving, and I have been receiving, weekly, it shows the calls in my area, it's a neighborhood group that's monitoring the whole thing. It'd be helpful, Frank, so I brought your name up on it, is you asked for a summary. And I would ask for a more detailed report like we would see if we had that software in place. And I know the sheriff's department did not want that, when I first brought it up probably 20-something years ago. But I think it's more crucial nowadays for us to know on a timely basis, at a minimum once a month, that we see what's going on. So it's not just the sheriff's department, it's going to be any kind of first responder call. Because I've had people talk about how long it takes to get an ambulance out on the east side of town and the La Palma side, the other side of the Coyote Creek. We've had comments, and when we look into it, the numbers are far better from our perspective that things did respond quicker than what people said. But without a report, we have nothing to refer to when a resident calls us. And if council concurs, Frank, if that's okay with you, that we modify your request to include more information in that staff report that Frank, asked us to do.
Yes.
Yeah.
I concur. Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to continue with our speaker. We have a Bin Tang. I know.
So good evening, everyone. My name is Bin Tang. I'm living in Down Drive, which is the southwest corner of Shoemaker and 166. So first of all, I would like to thank all the council member and the city staff and the law enforcement for your effort. But today, my purpose here is trying to report to you a burglary happened in our neighborhood just 2 weeks ago. And this house was completely secured with high resolution camera alarm and with the load, with the extra car parked on the driveway and with the dog, the be aware of dog sign on the side door, and also they have the even the UPS to prevent those burglars. The first thing they get into the backyard, what they did. They just break the breakers, circuit breaker, and they turn off the power so that the alarm didn't work. But fortunately, in this house, they have everything. So, but still, three young thieves, and while the other one sitting in the car waiting outside, they break in and they take the time, 20 minutes inside the house. Because they have the high resolution camera, even though the thieves destroyed all the cameras, but one of the cameras was in a high ceiling, so which clearly captures the whole thing. So you can see those three thieves, they use walkie-talkie, talking with the guy outside. They also take the time to go to the first floor, second floor, to silence those alarms, because they know that the police will not be there for another 20 minutes. And after 20 minutes, they are done. So they are trying to go to the next house. You know what happened? There are cleaning ladies in that house. So they will just come back. They went to the third house. You know what happened? There's a husky. There's a dog in that house. Okay. So then this is basically, a dog and a human being, a presence in the house is way more effective than the security alarms. So then let me tell you what happened with our police enforcement. So around 20 minutes, the first police came. And he was right after the owner of the house came back. So at that time, the burglar's house and the car was taken off because they see the police, they see the owner come back. So the lady, the victim of this house, just gestured to the police. That is the thief. Police tried to stop them, but police didn't do anything. Okay. So then the police waited for outside the house for 8 minutes until five other vehicles come in. Then after 30 minutes, 2 police rush into the house. But you know what? The thieves are gone because walkie-talkie and the time the driver, the burglar, they took off, and he talked to those 3 partners. Those 3 guys jumped over, into the 166. So basically, I'm here now to really try to point fingers, but I know you guys are doing a great job. Mr. Evans helped us to seal, the side doors because we have lots of complaints for the people breaking into our neighborhood. So here we would like to see, can our resident neighborhood and the city do as good as a dog? Can we do better as a dog? Because dog can sort the burglars. Dog can to make the house safe, but the security alarms and I'm a neighborhood watch captain. I've been in this post for 10 years, and for the last 2 months, I have seen in our tiny small neighborhood 4 burglars, and 3 successful. And just in our tiny small neighborhood, so I feel I have to be here to share with you our first of all appreciation to our city. That's a fantastic city, and we all enjoyed being in the city. But meanwhile, we feel, can we do better? Can we be that shiny city in Southern California to tell the people in Southern California, Cerritos is a place to live, to raise family, and to live happily ever after. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Are we aware of this incident?
By the way, I'm sorry. I do want to share one more information. Mr. Evans is right that the total property crime is increased 7%. However, as you know, that the property crime includes arson, GTA, larceny, theft, and burglars. Do you guys know how much burglary has increased? Last year is 202. This year, up until now, it's already 322. Okay, we still have 2 more months going into the holiday season. We can easily beat up, 2 times as compared to last year. So I think it's this 7% is really a kind of does not burglaries increased from 202 to 322 from last year to this year. Thank you very much.
Daryl, are we aware of this incident?
Not as I sit here. I was just speaking with Captain Strong here. We'd have to get the address and take a look at it. But residential burglaries are on the increase everywhere. As I mentioned
No,
before,
the question that he was saying that there was a thief were there and the sheriff didn't do anything. I don't know if that's right statement.
that we'd have to look at. We can review that. So we'll review that as well. But just to caution, I know that they haven't been in law enforcement for over 35 years. Part of the problem here is when a deputy arrives, and deputies are at various experience too. Sometimes they're new, sometimes they're have other information, but they will not enter that home alone because that's very dangerous until they have a backup unit there, or they can assess some more information. Because at the end of the day, this is a property crime, and a lot of times you don't know who's in that house, whether it be suspects. I've had it in the past, especially a large 2-story house, where people have exited the house and said no one's in there, only to enter and find somebody's child was in there. They didn't know that the teenager had come home. And so you don't want to enter a large home by yourself, walking through there very quickly looking for suspects. It does take a process to clear a house safely. And so we'll look into it as far as what the response time was and how long it took for other units to get there before they went inside.
Yeah. So, Daryl, thank you for that information. And like you said, a sheriff's deputy, police officer shows up on scene, knows what they need to do. But what I'm hearing over and over again, and this is for you, the captain, as well, is that maybe the communication is maybe lacking between a uniform and a resident when they're on scene. I'm not saying that the sheriff's department aren't doing their job, but maybe we need better communication, because it's not the first time I've heard they never get any phone calls back when they file for a case. They don't know what happens to it. And I don't know if that's true or not, but that's the message they're sending to me. And so if they feel that way, it must be happening in a way they're not getting the communication back from the sheriff's department. And then on top of that, when deputies arrive on scene, I know it's difficult when you're dealing with the situation and be distracted by residents that are concerned about their neighborhood. But we forget that that's their neighborhood. And of course, they're going to be concerned. So maybe the communication needs to be worked on, so that way when things are safe or when things are down, we can communicate to our residents why the sheriff's department does what they have to do, why they have to wait, why they have to have backup, why if they enter the building, it's not safe for the officers, and it's actually away from their training, right? So these residents, all they see is what they see, and they'll interpret it how they want to interpret it without that communication. And this is not the first time I've heard from residents and neighborhood watches. And, and I try to explain it with them because obviously my background, but I've heard it enough to make me feel like it's happening more so than what I believe that shouldn't be happening. So if this is a message we can carry towards the deputies at watch briefings and so forth, that it doesn't take that much just to ease the minds of the residents in their neighborhood, because that's where they live. So sometimes we forget that. We show up, we got to handle a call, and then we go on to the next one, and then we leave them there, right? But we forget that they live there. And that the extra moment that you just provide to our community is huge for them, because that might be the first time they ever had any contact with a uniform officer. And we don't want to leave them with that impression, that bad taste in their mouth, that we're not communicating with them. So if we can do that as well. And another thing I want to bring up real quick, since we're on this topic, is that I've also been hearing a lot that overnight parking is an issue, and I know we're really short on 3 to 5 staffing. I know sheriff's deputies have parking citations with them. One of the things maybe you can bring back to the council is I would like to know how many of those 3 to 5 parking citations are made by deputy sheriffs, because if they're able to do it and they're driving by a car, if they're not going to the call, it would be nice to have them enforce that law, a law that we have in the books. But when a resident sees them driving by a car that's parked on their street on their camera, they're like, well, that deputy didn't do anything. So although they may be going to the call, that's the impression that is, being relayed. So if we can, pass the word, if they see a violation 3 and 5, and we can't really have the staffing at the city level, if our deputies can also enforce the law for our city, so that way it prevents some of these issues that may come about. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, may I just respond to that briefly?
Yes.
Because this is an excellent educational period here. I know it's expanding our meeting, But thank you for those comments. Well received. Good communication is very important. So that's very valid. Thank you for bringing that up. We will work with the deputies to make sure they communicate that better. Just real quick about the parking enforcement. It is a little more difficult for deputy sheriffs because the city folks have a handheld device that has a wireless that when they enter the license plate, it will tell them whether there's a permit on file. The deputies will not have that. The deputies would have to stop and look at literally the dashboard of every single car on the street to know whether it had a parking permit or not.
Yeah, Daryl, they should do that. It's if they have the time, if they can get out and enforce the laws we have on our cities. It just sends a better message to our community that hey, okay, so they don't have that automated system, but if they don't have a permit in the car and the resident sees them driving by a car that's parked, I think it's okay to do that. If it takes them an extra 5 minutes to do it, they should do it.
Understood.
Thank you.
Okay, next speaker we have is Teddy Lloyd.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council Member. As a Cerritos resident, I myself very often, if I see something unique about it, and one time I spoke to a deputy and then sheriff, I said, what? And then he gave me the advice, say, just call, let them know, because if I went by, let's say the Liberty Park, which is right by Studebaker and 195th, I see something unique, right away I start paying attention to it, even though I don't live there, I live more on the east side, okay? So I just want to let you know. Okay, first of all, here tonight, I'm basically talking about another subject, hopefully brings some happiness to everybody. I'm going to mention 4 letters. I bet you most of you would know. UCLA. Well, what's UCLA got to do with it? Well, UCLA has been helping our city, and I remember I discussed it with several other council members about, helping the city to make our city relating to having pickleball courts. The sport is fastest growing. But at the same time, I was at UCLA and had a chance. I know most people think of UCLA, it's the school, it's a dream school for all the high school students here. I went and I spoke to them, and then they talk about they want to apply to UCLA. It's the #1 public university in the country now, and for 7 years in a row. However, I myself actually more involved with the graduate department schools of the UCLA, because I've actually worked in, such as the School of Medicine, School of Engineering, School of Law, and School of Business and Management. Okay, I myself actually worked for the business forecast, economic forecast for the UCLA when I actually worked there full time, and I also went to the graduate school. And just recently, I had a time to visit my campus and then talk, and someone suggested something, and I thought, gee, that is terrific for our city, because the city does what I call annual budgeting, right? I've been to quite a few city council meetings discussing, the next year, our, preparation for the city budget and on and on. And I say, gee, didn't always look into the future for the next year, what would the economy gonna be like, and on and on. And it just so happened to discover that the UCLA actually does economic forecasts for the different regions, including the cities. And I'm saying, wow, if that's the case, I want to bring, because I love my city. I want my city to be the best. So here I am. I like to provide a assistance helping the city that when the city is preparing for the budgeting and all that, they would like to look at what is the forecast and what it would be like. And UCLA does do that, and I'm already involved in it. And then, so it is something I like to suggest to the city of Cerritos that in preparation for the city budget and all that, I like to see and help the city of Cerritos on behalf of UCLA. So that's the purpose. I just want to bring that attention to the city, and hopefully the city will take advantage of that. By the way, they also mentioned the other cities as well. So any case, I just want to bring that, and then hopefully if the city has any question, I'll be more than happy to help the city out. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker is Joe Pack.
Honorable Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and council members.
I was at the first responder dinner last night, and it was really wonderful to recognize 3 outstanding first responders. One from our own Cerritos Sheriff Station, Deputy Martinez, and also Sergeant Ramos, and also Fireman Sierra. And Councilwoman Johnson was there. And it was good to hear all the accomplishment and everything they are doing to keep our community safe. And I was there staffing my boss, Assemblywoman Sharon Cook Silva, and she really enjoyed it too. So I just wanted to congratulate the Cerritos Atisha Rotary Club for carrying on that tradition for, I forgot how many years. Yeah, for 30 years. And keep it up. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next speaker is Case Van Wenderlin.
Good evening. I'd like to echo in on the last subject. I think it is high time that the city of Cerritos declare them a non-sanctuary city. That, for starter, will go a long way. I don't know why we have not done that. A non-sanctuary city. Anyhow, my subject was our trees. Last April, all the pine trees were removed, and that was a sad situation for our neighborhood, but it must. The new trees were planted. There were magnolias. I'm telling you, that is a sad magnolia. It's not the magnolias you guys have planted on Bloomfield down the line from the city hall. I wish they were that type. So here about 8 months ago, a lot of those trees had died. Okay, Robert was good enough to replace them. But the trees that are now in replace there are about half the size of what were there. And they're dying too. So you can say the neighborhood or the residents are not watering, but let me tell you, when they planted our pine trees in 72, because I've been here since 71, those trees were occasionally watered. And the pine trees certainly grew a lot better than these magnolias. You know, you guys are going the wrong direction with these magnolias. If you go through our street, Bloomfield and Valencia, you've seen at least more than half a dozen of the new trees that they just planted 4 months ago that are dead. The residents, I guess, are not watering them, maybe because they're not the owners. It's the city tree. The city should go by there and water those dang things like they did in 72 in the beginning. The water truck used to come by at least once a week and blew water in those trees. If you don't do that, we have the same old problem. It looks terrible. Take a drive through that. Bo, you've been through there. Half the trees that they replanted are dead. And you can say they're not watering, yet there is grass underneath the tree that is green. So those areas get water, but it's not the right tree. Okay? Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you.
Mayor, if you don't mind, Robert, is something we've talked about, and I'm just thinking, I agree, we need to water the trees as we did way back when. It might be appropriate to have a truck do that for where the new trees are and do it on the day we have trash pickup because there's no street parking at the same time. So if, maybe we do that until the trees are established, have a good enough root system to survive. And if maybe council concurrence for that?
Yes.
I concur.
Concurrence.
I
Yes.
actually just wrote that on my notepad. Same thing. So
I did.
water service.
Thank you.
Or we can park our cars and get them washed at the same time, right?
Yeah, the recycled water, yeah. All right, next speaker is Joe Siley.
Good evening, City Council. I'm Joe Solly. It's refreshing always to come to our City Council meetings. I've lived in the city for 48 years, but honestly, I haven't been to very many meetings. But I thought this evening was about public transportation, and I see that it is. I thought it was dedicated to public transportation, and I was going to be excited if there was more than one person at this meeting besides myself. So when I walked in, I saw the room full of people, but I realized it's a general city council meeting. So I came just to let you know that I do use public transportation.
That is the item on the agenda. You have to wait for that item.
Okay. Well, I'm a supporter of public transportation, and I am also a supporter of law enforcement, and I am a volunteer on patrol. I'm also a neighborhood watch captain. So I'm always encouraged by the efforts of our law enforcement here, and it's great to attend a meeting and to listen to the public concern. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
That's all the names I have. Is there anybody? Anyone else like to speak on public comments and suggestions that I have not called? Seeing none, we'll close the public comments and suggestion period and bring it back to item that I skipped, item 5B. Miss City Clerk, do we have under 5B?
And we have no written comments for agenda item 6. Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Honorable Mayor and members of the City Council. Tonight we'll present the council and community with the first in a series of updates as Cerritos prepares to vote in the city's upcoming Tuesday, March 4, 2025 general municipal election. Also, as the November 5th, 2024 general election is right around the corner, I will briefly provide some general information for our voters. If you would please direct your attention to the screen, we will start with the Cerritos general municipal election. There are several contests on the ballot this cycle. Voters may cast their ballots for 3 members of the City Council and 2 charter amendment ballot measures. Measure J relates to the setting in the charter, the dates of the city's general municipal election, council member term commencement, and mayoral transition. Measure K relates to a comprehensive charter cleanup. The official candidate nomination period opens Tuesday, November 12th at 8 a.m. and closes Friday, December 6th at 5 p.m. sharp. If an eligible incumbent city council member does not file nomination papers by the Friday, December 6th deadline, the nomination period is extended to Wednesday, December 11, 5 p.m. sharp for eligible individuals other than eligible incumbents. Interested individuals may schedule an appointment by calling the Office of the City Clerk Elections Official during regular business hours. It's not too early to call to schedule an appointment, and appointments are strongly encouraged. Pursuant to state law, all active Cerritos registered voters will receive vote-by-mail ballot packages mailed to them at their registered address. No return postage is required on the vote-by-mail return envelopes, and all official election materials will be provided in the languages required by federal law. Multiple voting options will be offered, including vote-by-mail drop boxes, U.S. postal mail, in-person voting, or vote-by-mail drop-off at City Hall, and early and weekend voting. Additional information on the Tuesday, March 4, 2025 Cerritos General Municipal Election is available in 7 languages on the city's website at cerritos.gov/election2025, which is also accessible from the city's homepage. Information will also be posted regularly on the city's social media platforms and Cerritos TV3. And of course, residents may email or call the Office of the City Clerk Elections Official during regular business hours for more information. As the presidential election is rapidly approaching, we will also provide a brief update on voting options now for this election. The county's website, lavote.gov, provides detailed and updated information. Voters may vote by mail or drop a vote-by-mail ballot in a Los Angeles County drop box through Tuesday, November 5th. Return postage is not required. In-person voting will begin as early as this Saturday, October 26th. Cerritos voters may vote in any of the 648 vote centers in the county. To locate the vote centers open nearest you, visit locator.lavote.gov. County vote-by-mail drop boxes in Cerritos are located at the Civic Center Plaza and at Cerritos Park East. Cerritos voters may drop their ballots in any Los Angeles County vote-by-mail drop box. In-person voting will be available in Cerritos at county vote centers located at Don Canabi Community Regional Park, the Liberty II facility, and at Whitney High School. These vote centers will be open beginning Saturday, November 2nd through Monday, November 4th from 10 a.m. till 7 p.m., and on Election Day, Tuesday, November 5th from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Again, updated information is available at lavote.gov. This concludes our election update. We encourage Cerritos residents and voters to visit the city's website for updated information on the Cerritos general municipal election. We also welcome calls and emails to our office during regular business hours as posted. Thank you.
Thank you. Next item is the consent calendar.
Move. Second.
Okay, we have motion and second.
We have a motion made by Mayor Pro Tem Vo, seconded by Councilmember Barrows, and I believe the electronic voting has been activated. And the motion passes on a vote of 5-0.
Thank you. The next item is the agenda is 8A, an appeal of the Property Preservation Commission decision. Before asking the city manager and city attorney for a brief introduction of this item, I may, council colleague, to disclose if any of you have met previously with the appellant or interested party prior to this hearing, or made any public statement about this property to press or for publicity prior to this hearing.
For the record, I drove by the residence this afternoon. Did not talk to anybody, I just drove by.
I'd like to also go on record that I also drove by the property and did not speak with anybody.
And I've had no contact.
Okay. All right, we'll continue that. Mr. City Manager and Mr. City Attorney, will you please provide information on this item?
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to defer to a city attorney for some comments.
Okay.
Yes, thank you, Mayor and members of the council. As was announced, the item before the council right now is an administrative appeal of the Property Preservation Commission decision in resolution number PPC 2024-28, finding that property at issue has a property nuisance in violation of Chapter 6.20 of the Cerritos Municipal Code. Before the mayor opens the public hearing to hear the merits of the administrative appeal from the city and the appellant, I did want to briefly summarize for the record the role of the city council in this proceeding, which is generally summarized in the memo included in the agenda package. The administrative appeals like this are not common and unique in several ways. First of all, as referenced in the memo, the council will be taking the role of a quasi-judicial or quasi-adjudicatory position. If you're familiar with acting, and if this is familiar, this is like acting similarly to a panel of judges reviewing the decision of a lower court and taking a fresh look at the evidence, testimony, and the applicable law regarding the property's condition and finding by the PPC of a property nuisance. In the law, we call this de novo review of the PPC decision. This is a public hearing, so requirements of the Brown Act and the city's protocol manual do apply, and they do allow for the public to address the council and address the council subject to the state and local reasonable regulations. But because of the nature of this proceeding, the council's decision must be made on the evidence and testimony presented that relates to the decision of the PPC and the grounds for the appeal raised by the appellant. Also, the touchstone for the council to remember in this role is that you are here to fulfill the requirements of due process, which involves the notice and the right to be heard by the parties and to deliberate and render a decision impartially and without bias. Procedurally, the memorandum from our office in the agenda packet contains a suggested approach on how to conduct this type of proceeding. But ultimately, the mayor runs the meeting, and this item is likewise subject to that general authority. But as summarized in the memo, this is a proposed and suggested approach. The mayor will open the public hearing. A minimum of at least 3 minutes must be given to each party, but as recommended, a maximum of 10 minutes total per side for the city and the appellant, which would include any rebuttal or closing statements. Council may ask questions of the parties during this period, but the time would be suspended during the time the council speaks. Then the mayor would close the public hearing, and the council considers the evidence and deliberates and may ask questions of staff, and if appropriate, the council may ask additional questions of the party by the mayor reopening the public hearing for this limited purpose. When the council reaches the point to make a decision pursuant to Cerritos Municipal Code, Section 6.20120 Subdivision D, the council must take one of three following actions. The first is to confirm and uphold the action and decision by the Property Preservation Commission. The second is to terminate the proceedings, and this is the same as nullifying the reso and ending all proceedings concerning the property for the cited violation. And the third is to modify the PPC decision based on the evidence presented at this meeting. This option would require the council to expressly define the modification from the resolution from the Property Preservation Commission, but still upholds the decision that there is a property nuisance in violation of the Cerritos Municipal Code. The decision by the council will be memorialized by a resolution, and the decision of the council must be adopted by a majority vote of the membership, which means at least 3 votes. A tie means that there is no majority action taken, and the PPC decision would stand. I'm happy to answer any questions, and with that background, I recommend returning to the mayor and then open the public hearing to proceed with the city's case, and unless there are any questions before then.
Thank you. I will now open the public hearing. Each party will have 10 minutes, as you stated, to present their testimony. Each may reserve time for rebuttal for closing statement. I'll start with Public Safety Darrell Evans. Please provide your testimony now.
Good evening, Mayor Solanki and council members. As mentioned before you is agenda item number 8A, a review and consideration of an appeal of the decision of the Cerritos Property Preservation Commission, finding that the Property Preservation Commission case number PPC 2431 involving the property located at 13237 Albana Place, Cerritos, constitutes a property nuisance and set forth in Chapter 6.20 of the Cerritos Municipal Code and setting forth a 7-day abatement period therein for resolution number PPC 2024-28. Prior to presenting the agenda report, I'd like to take a few minutes to explain the principal roles of the city's code enforcement detail for those in the audience who may not be familiar with the process. Most people only see the city code enforcement detail as chief enforcers of the property maintenance chapter 6.20 of the Cerritos Municipal Code, when they are much more than that. Code enforcement officers, the primary mission of code enforcement officers is to maintain the aesthetics of the city, identify infrastructure deficiencies, and assist residents with ensuring that their property and businesses comply with the city's maintenance ordinances. The city's 4 code enforcement officers accomplish their duties by the following. They patrol all the arterial streets and roadways. The code enforcement officers remove or coordinate the removal of debris, illegal signage, report issues involving traffic signals, worn out traffic signs, or other various hazards that they may come across. They work hand in hand with the department's Public Works Department to keep the city looking good. Code enforcement officers also address all the homeless person related matters as well. Code enforcement officers most often serve as counselors and advisors to the residents and business owners who are seeking advice on how to maintain their property, which includes installing drought-tolerant landscape, paint colors, and other helpful hints on how to maintain their property or landscape. Code enforcement officers also issue stop work notices for unpermitted construction and often save the homeowners funding by not allowing unpermitted construction to occur or being subjected to substandard work. The primary mission of code enforcement officers is to work with property owners, educate them on the existing property maintenance ordinances, and gain their cooperation to resolve any identified property maintenance issues. Code enforcement officers are very helpful and persuasive. In fact, in 2023, there were 2,362 cases generated by the code enforcement officers. Only 39 of those cases were presented to the PPC. That's a 1.65% non-compliance rate. So basically, 98% of all the people the code enforcement officers contact comply with the city and ultimately bring their property in compliance. And we appreciate the support of the community doing that. This year, in 2024, as of September 31, code enforcement officers have initiated 2,264 cases and 34 cases have been presented to the PPC this year. That's a 1.5% failure rate, if you would, or again, 98% of the people who are contacted by code enforcement officers comply. I'm proud of the work that they do, and I often hear of comments from residents in support of their efforts. So again, the primary mission of the code enforcement officer is to make the city look aesthetically pleasing and work with the community. Now I'd like to offer just a brief comments on the code enforcement process. When a code enforcement officer responds to calls for service, and we've received 372 complaints from residents this year about various properties, or make observations on their own, the code enforcement officer will either contact the resident or leave a notice of correction, as we refer to as a door tag, at the property. That door tag also lists the violation, the action needed to be corrected, and contact information of the code enforcement officer. The code enforcement officer at the end of the day will come back, enter all that data into our data network, assign a follow-up date, depending on what the item is. Sometimes it's several days, sometimes it's several weeks, depending on the violation, whatever is appropriate. And then when that time elapses, they will go back by the property, conduct another visual inspection to see if it's been corrected. If it hasn't been corrected, then the code enforcement officer will generate a letter, and that letter will be sent to the resident and or property owner of the home, identifying what the deficiency is and the activity that's needed to correct it. And also, again, the officer's information there is listed in the letter to contact the code enforcement officer if they have any questions. Once again, the officer will sign a period of time to allow for compliance. When that time expires, they'll go back, conduct another inspection. If there's no change, then the officer will generate a second letter to make sure that the homeowner is receiving those letters. Same process, they come back, they give them a certain amount of time, then they go back and do another examination if nothing has happened. That's when a third letter or the case is referred to the Property Preservation Commission for follow-up. If it's referred to the Property Preservation Commission, or I should say before that, I personally review all the cases, which includes reading all the reports, looking at all the photographs, and making sure that it meets my standard as well. And if so, then that case is forwarded to the Property Preservation Commission. There's a notice of hearing posted on the yard of the residence or the business saying that the hearing will take place, when and where, and what's involved. That case is then presented to the Property Preservation Commission. The PPC, or the Property Preservation Commission, reviews all reports. They also are required to go out and personally inspect the property themselves and view it. Just trying to advance my slide here. I think my computer went to sleep. There we go. On the screen is a picture of the Property Preservation meeting. And so they will review the reports, all the evidence here, testimony, and including any comments from the property owner. And then they will deliberate and render a decision on the case. That brings us to the matter at hand, which is agenda item number 8A. This evening we'll be discussing section 6.20.30 of the Cerritos Municipal Code and 6.20.040. It'd be beneficial to review that section before we proceed. So on the screen here, I've listed that, and the text here that's relevant is highlighted in the yellow. Cerritos Municipal Code, section 6.20.030, maintenance of property nuisance unlawful. Section 2 is the one that is relevant. The condition of the property is unsightly in appearance and is out of harmony or conformity with the maintenance standards of the adjacent properties so as to cause substantial diminution of enjoyment, use, or property value, such as the adjacent properties. Second section is the Cerritos Municipal Code, section 6.20.040, conditions of constituting property nuisance, subsection F, lack of or overgrown landscaping, inadequate installed or maintained landscaping, subsection 3, lawns or weeds growing in excess of 6 inches in height, subsection 5, which is trees, shrubs, lawn, and other plants that are dying from lack of water, fertilization, or fertilizer, or maintenance. And then section 7, there shall be a conclusive presumption that vegetation is overgrown if the vegetation has not been properly cut or trimmed within 30 days of notification of said vegetation is overgrown. The facts in this case involving the property at 13237 Albana Place are as follows. On May 1st, 2024, code enforcement staff inspected the property at 13237 Albana Place, Cerritos, observing weeds and lack of landscape maintenance within the front yard and parkway, which is a violation of Chapter 6.20.030, maintenance of property nuisance. During the site visit, a written notice was left at the property. And if we just pause for a moment here to show the pictures of the property that we are discussing. The photograph here is the primary residence. The photograph here shows the dead grass off onto the right side of the property. This photograph shows the front yard. You can see in this photograph here of the adjacent property where the lawn is green as compared to the property that is in question. Next slide is another photograph of the front yard. This is a picture of the planter where the weeds are visible. Sorry, I'm not sure. I think my paper is laying on the pad here, which is causing it to switch. The next slide here is another photograph of the garden area. And this is just a collective pictures there. On May 15th, 2024, inspection revealed no compliance to the original notice that was left. The following day, on May 16th, a second notification was mailed to the residents advising the property maintenance violations and the required corrective action. On May 29th, an inspection revealed progress on the landscape maintenance had occurred, so there was some progress. On June 12th, an inspection revealed landscape maintenance improved, however, the weeds and the planters remained. On August 7th, inspection revealed the presence of weeds and lack of landscape maintenance. A third letter was provided to the resident, advising the property maintenance violations and required corrective action. On the 21st of the same month, an inspection revealed no compliance with the identified corrective action. On August 22nd, a final letter was mailed to the residents advising the property maintenance violation and corrective action. On September 3rd, an inspection revealed some progress of landscape maintenance. However, large portions of the lawn remain dead and weeds remain in the planter areas. On the 24th, the matter was presented to the Property Preservation Commission for review. During the September 24th, 2024 meeting of the Property Preservation Commission, commissioners reviewed the allegations involving 13237 Albana Place, considered all the relevant evidence, objections or protest testimony, and proposed abatement efforts. The following is a comprehensive review of the commission's ruling, which is they voted 4-0, with one commissioner being absent, to approve Resolution 2024-28, thereby declaring a nuisance on the property and providing Mr. Martinez with 7 days to correct the violation. Mr. Martinez subsequently filed an appeal with the city here for City Council, appealing the decision of the Property Preservation Commission. With that, it is recommended that the city review Mr. Martinez's appeal for the Property Preservation Commission on September 24th, 2024, review the resolution number 2024-28, and direct staff accordingly. That concludes my report. Be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Darrell. Do any of the council have any questions for Darrell? Seeing none, I'll have a Mr. Martinez come to the...
Yeah, and Mayor, as the appellant comes up, just for the record, the city did take, I have 12 minutes and 30 seconds, and I'd recommend allowing the same amount of time for the appellant.
Great, thank you.
I have copies. Can you guys hear me? I have copies of my comments a copy for each council member, and a copy for the attorney, if you'd like one. Good evening to everyone gathered, and thank you for the opportunity to address the City Council on this matter. My name is Mark Martinez. I am the owner of the property in question. My family are the original and only owners of the home, and I have been a resident of the City of Cerritos since 1967. I want to begin by saying that I hope my presentation tonight will be educational and informative, and that it will facilitate some much-needed changes in the way that residential property maintenance code is written and enforced in the City of Cerritos. In terms of my background, I am a graduate of Starrow's Elementary, Carmenita Middle School, and Gar High School. And for the purposes of the information I'm going to present tonight, it might be instructive to know that I hold a bachelor's degree in environmental science from UCLA, a master's degree in population ecology from the University of California at Santa Barbara, and 6 years of postgraduate training in forest ecology and plant population ecology at Oregon State University. On Tuesday, September 10th at 10:26 a.m., I called Code Enforcement Office at the number 562-916-1203, and I requested clarification about the notice of code violations that had been posted on my lawn earlier that day. I was informed that someone from code enforcement would contact me. However, no response ever came, and no explanation for the lack of response has ever been forthcoming. Subsequently, on 2 occasions during the Preservation Committee meeting, the code enforcement representative said that I had never contacted the office. At the 10:52 mark of the video of the meeting, he'd be heard to say, "I have never received any contact from the homeowner." And at the 11:40 mark, he states a second time that the only contact we've ever had from anybody at that property was when they dropped off the correspondence today. This claim is absolutely false. According to log on my cell phone, the call began at 10:26 a.m., lasted 1 minute and 43 seconds. Attached, labeled as Figure 1 in my original appeal, is a page from my cell phone usage log from Consumer Cellular. There you will find the call of September 10th exactly as I've indicated. In my appeal, I requested that the City Council conduct an independent investigation to determine if code enforcement knowingly provided false information to the Property Preservation Commission, or whether this was a result of negligence on the part of code enforcement in failing to check the phone logs to verify that my call had been placed and received. Regardless of the reason, the fact remains that false information was presented to the Commission and that this information materially affected the Commission's decision. This fact alone should be sufficient for the Council to overturn the Commission's finding. Let's now turn to page 2 of the agenda report, if you have it, and the apparently long list of dates on which my property was claimed to be in violation. Interestingly, the original conditions of the violation are not listed. What it says is that they observed weeds and a lack of landscape maintenance, in quotes. In fact, my recollection is that the original violation back in May was for mowing and edging. Notice that the citation on May 29th says, revealed progress, in quotes. The citation on 6/12 says, landscape maintenance improved. And citation 9/3 also says, revealed some progress on landscape maintenance. Also notice that for the entire month of July, there are 0 inspections indicating lack of compliance. All of this indicates that the lawn was mowed and edged regularly. In fact, I mow and edge my lawn about once a month. But apparently, this was not sufficient to meet the expectations of code enforcement. Now, I've wondered in all the occasions that I've been notified that my lawn required mowing and edging, why no guidelines were ever included to justify why my lawn required mowing and edging, or to what standard the mowing and edging was to be conducted. I decided to run a search of the city code. And I was surprised to find that there is, in fact, a maximum allowable height for a lawn in the city of Cerritos, and also a maximum overhang allowed in terms of the edging of the planted area. In section 6.20.030, subsection F and subsection 3, it says, in quotes, conditions constituting property nuisance. It states lawns or weeds growing in excess of 6 inches in height, or lawns that are untrimmed or encroaching more than 2 inches over sidewalks or landscape improvements. That's the definition. 6 inches in height, 2 inches over the edged area. Thus, the maximum height of grass allowed in the city of Cerritos is in fact 6 inches. There is a maximum. The maximum overgrowth over the edge of the planted area is 2 inches. It's from the code. According to city code, therefore, my lawn has never been in violation. I'm going to say that again. My lawn has never been in violation. My lawn has never been more than 6 inches high. And the growth over the edge of these edged areas has never been 2 inches, ever. This means that every inspection that suggested that my property was in violation due to inadequate mowing and edging is false. It would appear that code enforcement was not themselves aware of the height maximum, as it was never mentioned in the numerous times that they claimed my mowing and edging was required. They could have easily just said, the maximum height is 6 inches. But innumerable times they told me to mow an edge, that never happened. Again, this means that my property has never been in violation in terms of mowing and edging. A very important side note here is that the code for maximum lawn height does not specify how the lawn height is to be measured, nor what percentage of grass leaves above the stated maximum length would constitute a violation. This code, like many other codes, does not have an operational definition. Without operational definitions with respect to landscape maintenance, the city has actually created a system of appeasement rather than a system of compliance. This is a very important idea that I will return to in just a minute. As for the dates of inspection, when the grass appeared dead, around the beginning of July, my neighbor installed a fence. In the process, damaged my sprinkler system, rendering it inoperable. I tried to compensate by hand watering, but the heat stress during that part of the summer was simply too great. The lawn died. Once the lawn had been damaged to that significant degree, my watering efforts were insufficient to bring it back during the high heat stress months of July and August. However, once the heat abated in early fall, I was successful in getting regrowth to begin by instituting a regimen of intensive watering and fertilization. Thus far, the results in the boulevard area of the planting have been very promising, with approximately 80% recovery as of today. And I'm going to ask you to please look at Figure 1A, which is attached on the back. This is a photograph that I took this morning of the boulevard planting area. That's its condition as of this morning. The upslope areas of the lawn that you saw in these photographs have largely not responded as I had hoped. I do believe that the entirety of the lawn will recover to its original condition. However, even with intensive watering and fertilization, that process is likely to take 6 months or more, which is why in my original appeal, I offered to the council that if this takes more than 8 weeks, I will rip out the entire planting and I will have it reseeded. As far as my property requiring weeding, it is important to understand that there is no botanical or scientific definition for what or what is not a weed. It is not a scientific term. It is not a botanical term. I am currently growing a variety of herbaceous perennials and annuals, including some annual grasses. And as there is no prohibited species list in the city of Cerritos, I can literally grow any species I like. As long as a plant is growing there and I'm happy with it, it is not a weed. Thus, as the city simply has no definition whatsoever as to what constitutes a quote-unquote weed, any violations I have received from my property requiring weeding are therefore meaningless. I want to add another side note. A couple of times they've come to me and said, I needed to weed my lawn. Most people don't realize that when you cut your lawn and make it look like a putting green, you're doing extensive damage to the plant there. What happens is you leave a very tiny green space above the soil, and the plant will respond by ditching biomass below the soil. So whatever you see above the soil, that tiny little thing is going to be matched by an equally tiny root biomass below it. You're keeping your lawn on the edge of death. That's what happens when you mow it like a putting green. And they have to therefore take care of it like it's about to expire. A couple of times that I've gotten suggestions that I need to weed, it's not a weed at all, it's the grass. When grass flowers, it sends up a very tall stalk about this high. And that's what grasses do. So if you let the grass grow and you don't trim it down like a cutting green, it will eventually flower. That's not a weed. That's the grass. So lastly, I would like to discuss the method by which property maintenance codes are currently enforced in the city. In my case, I was given instruction to mow, edge, and weed my lawn without any standards that I could attempt to comply with. With regards to mowing, there was no indication of how often I should mow, how short the lawn should be cut, nor any means by which a homeowner could assess whether or not they had mown their lawn properly. There was no information on why code enforcement decided that my lawn needed to be cut, nor any criteria that they could have used to make that determination. Absent any measurable standards, the homeowner is then simply left to mow their lawn, cross their fingers, and hope their efforts meet code enforcement's approval. This is not a system of compliance. It is instead a system based on appeasement. Without any benchmarks or guidelines to go by, homeowners are expected to attempt to interpret code enforcement's instructions and then be subject to the whims of code enforcement's opinions as to the quality of their efforts. This system places far too much power in the hands of code enforcement employees. It should be clear to everyone that this system is rife for abuse. The only way to fairly enforce property maintenance codes is through strict, operationally defined standards that can be measured independently regardless of the person performing the evaluation. Operational definitions define an object, event, variable, concept, or construct in terms of the specific processes, tests, or measurements used to determine its presence or quantity. That doesn't make any sense. So, for example, if code enforcement wants to limit the height of lawns in the city, there must be a maximum allowable height, which, by the way, I just explained that there is, but also a clearly defined method of measuring the grass length, and a repeatable and observer-independent means of evaluating the measurements. So if code enforcement wants me to keep a 6-inch height of grass or less, they have to explain how that is measured so that I can measure it. And if I measure it and I don't agree with their measurement of it, then a third party can independently apply the same exact standards and come up with a measurement to break the tie if we disagree. So homeowners should be able to use the same exact methods. Sorry, I got about another page. Can I finish?
Finish.
Yeah, okay. Homeowners should be able to use the same exact methods as code enforcement to measure the height of their own grass. If necessary, a third party should be able to use these same methods to come to a conclusion. This is the only way to create a system of compliance that is based on clearly defined and measurable standards, as opposed to the existing system, which is based solely on the opinion of code enforcement employees. I'm quite certain that the city is capable of creating these type of standards, and I would like to use my experience installing my air conditioning unit as an example. About 6 years ago, we installed our first air conditioning unit, and when the code inspector arrived, he determined that some electrical box was placed too high off the ground. Apparently there's a required number of inches that it has to be off the ground, and it was over this number by a few inches. It was too high. When informed of the mistake, my contractor came back the next day and moved the box to the required height cited in the city code. However, can you imagine the contractor's reaction if there had not been a required height, and the inspector instead forced him to move the box simply because it looks high to me? If this is the way code inspectors handled air conditioning unit inspections, very quickly the city would discover that no business would be willing to do these installations in the city of Cerritos. City code regarding construction and building practices is very clear and definitive. I'm asking that the city give the residents of the city of Cerritos the same level of respect that they show companies doing business in Cerritos, and create new residential property maintenance codes that are operationally defined and contain clear standards that property owners can use as objective measures of compliance. That's all I have, and I'll...
Thank you.
Yep.
Do we have a question for council, from the council?
I would just like to have code enforcement rebuttal what he presented to the council in regards to those.
Well, I think
lack
the
of-
code enforcement supervisor is Daryl, which he need to explain, not the
Yeah,
code
he's
enforcement.
brought up some points in regards to the actual requirements and the actual numbers of inches and so forth, and things that are left up to interpretation by code enforcement. Can you?
Yes, thank you,
further
Mayor Pro
detail
Tem.
that? Thank you.
Thank you, and thank the resident for coming out. One of the additional processes that I did not mention was if a resolution is adopted, the next step is to have a conference with the homeowner in the event that, we have not spoken to him before. And many times when cases go to the PPC, we've never had any contact with the resident. So that's, when they go there, that's the first time that they actually show up or respond to code enforcement. Many times the cases, people don't respond. So if a resolution is adopted, then the next step is to have a conference with the homeowner. And again, what we're seeking is resolution. The city is not looking for a fine. As you know, the fine process is the first violation is $100, $200, $500. Then it could be moved to the city prosecutor if we were.
Daryl, the question is that how would the residents knows what's the
Yes.
height and who determines that?
And it comes back to the overall picture is that the way the code is written, it does require or allow for interpretation. And so each one of the Property Preservation Commissioners actually functions as the conscience of the community. You know, these are not legal standards where we go out there. It's much like paint. The city has a paint palette. There are some paints that, violet, they make it, people enjoy the color, but you're not allowed to paint your house that. That is a subjective decision, and it comes back to this lawn. In this particular case, it was about not the height of the lawn, but the condition of the lawn, which was dead. And the shrubbery, if it's overgrown, and how does it look in general appearance? Is it maintained? Is it kept? Not necessarily the material that's growing, because we refer to that as the green material, right? Organic material. So it comes back to subjectively looking at it. Does this house look well maintained? And so there is a level of subjective review, and that comes from the commissioners, whether they see that that's in standard with the rest of it or not. And so as far as the legal points of how tall the grass is, yes, that does exist as well. But in this case, that was not the primary issue.
Okay, did that answer your question?
Thank you, Daryl, for filling that gap a little bit in regards to the, I guess, the authority of the commission to interpret that. And that's why it's brought to the PPC by staff, so that interpretation can be made at that level. And then now it's bringing it to our attention so we can interpret it ourselves. Mr. Martinez, I want to applaud you for that presentation.
Thank you.
I think it was very well written. There's things that you have brought up that I never realized I was ever going to talk this much about grass before, but you definitely made it interesting at the very least. But I do have some concerns when he brings up certain things that are already detailed in the code. And if we're going to have it that detailed, then that has to be interpreted the way it's written. I also agree with you, with staff, that the commission does have a level of interpretation when it comes to the requirements of that code. Because if we had to detail every single one of those things down to the very leaf of the grass, I think it's not practical. But the system we have set up, I truly believe, is to help the residents, even though you don't feel that way right now. I don't know of too many cases where residents actually got fined, but more of a guidance and resolution so that, the city will nudge the resident to do what should be, that you feel also is right for your neighborhood, right? And I sense you're a good neighbor, and you live in that neighborhood, so you want your neighbors to also feel that you're at that level where you want to make sure that presence of aesthetics is there, and especially with your background, I'd say I'm very impressed with your background. That should be an easy fix for you in a sense that you understand what you need to do. So if you're here because you're concerned that the city's going to come after you, I just don't see that. I mean, Daryl and their team have always gone out of their way to help residents to achieve the standards of this city. And that's why a lot of people move here. And I hope that's why you stayed here and your family moved here and stayed here. And I hope that this doesn't make you think you want to move. But if anything, that you see that we're trying to work with you and to get you to that level where your neighbors and the city and the community expects of the residents, right? And so I agree that there has to be some level of interpretation. But I want to applaud you for this presentation because it definitely made me think. But at the end of the day, I really think that you're on your way to do what you know you should do, and it sounds like it. So I don't know if this is even an issue, other than the fact that this time frame is here so we can discuss it with you. But it sounds like you're doing what you need to do, and staff is presenting what is expected, in a sense, from the city. But I think you both kind of agree to that. You may not agree to the prior process. And one of the things you brought up and I just wanted to clarify, your concern about staff not receiving your phone call or claiming that they never did, it might just be a misunderstanding, not the fact that maybe our staff is trying to lie at a official meeting, but maybe it's just a miscommunication and maybe he never got the message or somebody dropped the ball in the city. I'm not doubting that you called the city, but I'm also not doubting that staff didn't get that message. The proper staff didn't get that message, right? So let's leave that at that and not be concerned about that. I think the city and you are both trying to meet and get this process where it needs to be. And I feel that way with you, and I feel that way with our staff. So I hope you understand that this process is not about being punitive. It's about helping you as a resident conform to what you believe the city should be as well. So I'm going to go ahead and just say that part.
Okay, thank you. I just want to clarify that the most important thing that I'm concerned with is that if I get direction, if any homeowner gets direction from code enforcement, they have to be able to be treated as adults. We have to be able to take that direction and assess it for ourselves. Literally right now, without exaggeration, if I went and mowed and edged my lawn tomorrow, a code enforcement officer could come back the next day and say, mow your lawn. There's nothing to keep him from saying that because there are no standards.
Well,
I'm literally trying to appease his sensibilities without any measurable thing that I can actually use as a guidance for myself.
And I agree with you there. I absolutely agree with you there. But then that comes back to interpretation of the commission, and we hope that our commissioners that all of us appoint to be on the commission is reasonable. And that's why they're residents of this city, because they're part of this community that maybe your neighbor may shop down the street from you. And so I hope that, and just like all of us are part of the community, we understand where you're coming from. And so we direct staff with that understanding as a liaison as a resident to staff that, hey, this is a process that we need to work well with our residents. So if that's the case, if we have a code enforcement officer that's just going out there doing that, I am sure that's going to come to attention to, not the commission, for sure it'll come to attention to Daryl, but then it'll come to us and we'll address that. But is there a likelihood that can happen? Yes. But if it does happen, I think we have measurements in place to deal with that at a professional level, at a staffing level. I don't see that in this case, but what I do see is that they're working with you, and it sounds like you're working with us to get where we need to get. So I see that this is something that's here, but I don't see where the issues are, to be honest with you, because you look like you're very cooperative. You're working with where you need to be. It's just timing-wise. And I'm just surprised with your background, though, that I'm surprised that you can't grow a forest there because, because I drove by your house today, and I have to tell you, it looks okay to me.
I'll agree with you. It doesn't look terrific right now. The lawn died.
Yeah.
And I guess it comes down to being my fault. I tried to hand water, and I was not successful. That's the truth. And then I tried to recover it, but in July and August,
it's hot.
You can't do it. The meristem is not going to respond under that kind of heat stress. But once fall came around, I started to see some response, and it started to work.
So this is the communication that staff needs from you, and then hopefully they can relay it back to you too. So this is a good starting point. If it hasn't started yet, that it sounds like this is not going to be a problem. It sounds like you need the time and you need to put an effort and you're willing to. And I think staff, maybe this is the first time, if not the second time, or just most recently, they're getting that same impression. I'm getting that impression from you. So I don't have a concern about this lawn.
Okay.
You know, I don't, because I know you're going to get to where it needs to get to. So I'm okay with what the commission has brought forward to us, because I know you'll get it done. And if you think that after we make a vote on this and that it has to be done by tomorrow, that's not the case. They'll give you time. I know they will. Daryl, can you confirm that?
Absolutely. We always work with homeowners.
They always do. And I'm sorry that you had a bad experience with staff, but I have to tell you, if you do get to know them, and hopefully they get to know you, because you will have to get to know each other now, right? Because they're going to be meeting with us. Don't just look at them as somebody who's enforcing the rules. They're there because, one, they have a job to do, but two, they're really reasonable folks. And I think maybe you guys just got off on the wrong foot, and you took it with the violation, and you dove right into the laws, and I appreciate that. That's something I would do too, right? But at the end of the day, it sounds like you're going to do what you need to do, and staff is just doing their job. And so I hope this is going to start a good relationship between you and the code department, because I would think that with your background, you would be a good resource to have also. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's all I have to say. Personally, for me, I think we don't even need this hearing, but and I'll support what the PCC gave us, but I don't think it's an issue, because even moving forward, you're going to do what needs to do. They're going to give you the time to do it. Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, any other councilors questions?
Yes, please.
Okay, go ahead.
Mr. City Attorney, I was trying to confirm with certainty from your memorandum what this city council can consider. And are we limited to what the commission considered at the time of their hearing? Or are we allowed to consider the facts post, are we allowed to consider facts that have occurred after the hearing of the commission up till today, up to this moment? Or are we reviewing what the commission had before them at the time of the commission hearing?
Thank you for the question, council member. The short answer is the council may consider evidence that's presented at this hearing that may have occurred subsequent to the Property Preservation Commission's hearing on the matter. And for instance, there was additional information and additional testimony presented tonight that may be considered in connection with whatever the council's decision is tonight. So it's not just limited to what was before the Property Preservation Commission, in the sense of some appeals just look at that record and don't look beyond. Our code does say that there is the ability to even modify what the Property Preservation Commission decided based on the evidence presented at this hearing.
So we can consider the condition of the property as it stands today?
That's correct.
Okay. Mr. Evans, just reading this agenda report as a public document that's available to the appellant. He's the appellant, right?
Yes.
Right, Mr. Erkey? Available to
Yes.
the appellant, available to our residents, available to the public. I wanted to look at it in that frame of mind. What I would have liked to see was the minutes of the Property Preservation Commission, because the question I asked our city attorney is I wanted to know if I was limited to what the Property Preservation Commission considered at their hearing on September 24, 1 month ago. And so here we are a month later, and from the testimony of the appellant, from the photos, it's clear to me that the condition of the property as of today is different from the facts that were before the Property Preservation Commission at the time they made their decision. But getting back to my thought was, I would have liked to see the minutes of the Property Preservation Commission attached as one of the exhibits, and to see this comprehensive review that's mentioned on page 3 of the agenda report, that there was a comprehensive review, but we don't have the minutes. But what I am wondering, I'm curious, is, and this would have been answered if I had the minutes, is who are the 4 commissioners who voted yes, and who was the commissioner who was absent? Could you please let me know?
Yes, we have one commissioner who's missed several meetings due to medical issues. Would you like the name?
Can he answer? I mean, with him qualifying.
Frank, I don't think we need names and all that. There were 4 commissioners voted and 1 commissioner was absent.
Well, I'm just curious because we don't have the minutes, and that would have been.
Well,
answered.
minutes won't come until next week because this meeting was just last week, so we will have the minutes on the next council meeting. He hasn't even approved yet.
So,
the original report that was submitted to the property preservation is part of your attachment here for this evening. That is included along with the same photographs. The photographs that I displayed this evening are the same photographs that were presented to the Property Preservation Commission and included in the report.
So has any code enforcement officer, or have you looked at the property today? Looked at this property at 13237 Abana Place today, or this month of October, to see what the condition of the property is more recently?
I have not personally. I know the code enforcement officer, Brian Lane, has. And again, these resolutions allow staff to have a lever to work with the community members. So oftentimes, as we talk about, it's very rare for us to actually issue a citation because we get compliance. And what the resolution allows is for code enforcement to move forward with the fine if need be, as opposed to coming back to Property Preservation Commission, which meets once a month each time. These reports are lengthy. This particular appeal, I looked at the packet. It's over 41 pages, lots of text. And again, I want to compliment the homeowner as well for his well-prepared document and statement here. It's a lot of time, energy, and effort, right? So,
okay, well, because the city attorney has made it clear that this city council can consider facts up until today, I wish I knew what you or the code enforcement officer of our city would say about the condition of the property today, if in their experience as a code enforcement officer, or in your experience as the public safety manager, that today this property is a nuisance. Because Mr. Erkey is saying that our standard before us is that we are not limited to the facts that the commission reviewed. We can consider facts up until today. And when you say that, Mr. Erkey, I feel like we should consider the facts that are available to us, which means up until today. And I don't know what you or a code enforcement officer would tell us in your professional opinion about the condition of the property today. So those are my thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you. If you don't have any more questions, you can take a seat. Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry.
Excuse me, Mr. Martinez.
One more, yeah. Mr. Guerrero's got a question.
You mentioned, and I really appreciate all things that, especially Chung brought up. what I didn't hear is that what occurred to me is that you're saying that you're going to continue to water and then maybe the grass will spread by April, which is going to be very difficult to see it happen based on my experience. I used to have a landscaping firm back when I was in college. But to very simply, buy some seed, scratch up the dirt a little bit that's not growing, and put a little bit of topper down. Might be what, $20. Cover the size that's in the photos. You have about 2 weeks left before you can plant, before the winter starts to impact the growth of seed, which you well know. Is there any reason not to do that to speed the process up?
Yeah, not,
And just out of consideration for your neighbors is what I'm asking.
It's not an extraordinarily difficult process. The reason why I hesitated to patch the lawn is that
during the summer months, it wouldn't have grown.
Yes, but as of right now.
From seed.
As of right now, is that what I've got is Marathon. And the Marathon it's not a terrific grass if you're looking for something that's ornamental, that's pretty. It's rather hardy, but it's not much to look at. So when the lawn died, and I did my best to try to bring it back, I kind of had a thought, well, maybe this is the universe telling me, rip that nonsense out and just plant seed so I can have something fine-leaved and pretty, and the neighbors will love to look at it. So that's the only reason I hadn't patched the little holes as of right now. But my pledge still remains. If in 8 weeks this thing still looks horrific, I'll simply rip out the whole thing and spray it and drop seed in there.
Well, the reason why I bring it up, when you mentioned Marathon does cost more. Even seed, it's going to be $12, $13 for a small can.
Right.
And roughly $40 for, a gallon. I have it in my backyard, and I did something far worse than you did. I mixed up some weed killer, versus the lawn, the weeds in the lawn. And I killed everything in my backyard for a section. And trying to get that to regrow again is taking a long time. If it's in the front yard, I'd have to buy, sod or something like that to take care of it. But I was just thinking in terms it's in the front yard, there is a concern by neighbors. And the standard I really think is the neighborhood, when you look at it. The only thing I would recommend we do is maybe use what's on the ortho cans or weed killers, is the list of the weeds as weeds, but every lawn has weeds in it. So the height is the determining factor. Most lawnmowers do anywhere from a half-inch to 4 inches. Trying to get to 6 is very difficult. And I know if we have a house that takes out the lawn and puts in other, plants, for climate change, the 6 inches is out the window because there's nothing that fits that category. So I think, to answer one of the questions is the standard really is your neighborhood. And I know if I was to go down and look, I'd be looking at, what does everybody else have? And whether it's a dichondrolon, which is a broadleaf, versus Marathon, you're going to have a very different look. And I really like the Marathon look. But if we have zoysia, it grows differently. So it's a process that I think is kind of open-ended, and I agree with Chung. It makes sense to, have leeway on it. And I think you've looked at it the same way. I'm just saying you might want to consider your neighbors to take care of something maybe within the next 2 weeks for those spots that aren't going to grow for 6 months or even a year. And to rip it all out is not going to help things, in 6 months. And if it's all the same seed, have at it and just start it. But anyway, I want to appreciate, let you know I appreciate what you've done, what you shared, and your background, because it's very valuable to our city.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Martinez. Okay, this time I will open up the public comments. If anyone would like to speak on this item, can come forward and speak on this item. Seeing none, we'll close the public comments period and bring it back for the council for action, or I guess city clerk. Did you have someone write speakers in here on these items?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Prior to the meeting, the City Council received full text unredacted copies of the 3 written comments submitted for this item. Requests for copies of written comments can be made to the Office of the City Clerk during regular business hours.
Okay, great. Thank you. So do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to accept the PPC's recommendation and move forward with the condition that staff will continue to work with the homeowner and to get the lawn where it needs to be.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have motion and second.
May I just get a clarifying on that, Mayor Pro Tem? So I believe the motion was to uphold the PPC's decision with a condition attached to continue to work, is that?
Yes.
Okay.
They will anyways, but I just want to throw it in there so the owner and resident can be safe, sure that staff got that direction from council. Thank you.
And yes, and just to confirm, there will be a resolution that would be memorializing that motion and second if it is approved by the council.
Correct.
So we have motion and second, ready for a vote.
We have a motion made by Mayor Pro Tem Vo and seconded by Councilmember Johnson to waive full reading of and adopt a resolution of the City Council of the City of Cerritos confirming and upholding Property Preservation Commission Resolution Number PPC 2024-28 and finding that the property located at 13237 Abana Place, Cerritos constitutes a property nuisance as set forth in Chapter 6.20 of the Cerritos Municipal Code and setting forth a 7-day abatement period thereon, and with the stipulation that staff will continue to work with the homeowner. And I believe the and the motion passes on a vote of 5-0.
Thank you. We have item 8B, but before we take, if you don't mind, we'd like to take a 2 minutes break. Thank you. We're back from the recess, and everybody's back. We're on item public hearing 8B. Mr. City Manager, do we have reports on this?
Yes, thank you, Mayor, members of the City Council. This next public hearing, item 8B, follows up on direction provided by the City Council previously related to the city's cow and dollar-ride transit programs. The city staff has done an extensive community engagement effort and has sought input and is ready now to move forward with implementation of the City Council's direction, where at this time we're seeking the City's Council's final input prior to proceeding. The city's project managers, Sabrina Chan and Kristen Aguila, unfortunately, were not able to be here tonight for this public hearing. The presentation will be given by Mr. Ryan Carey, who with our team will present the item and happy to answer any questions. Mr. Carey?
Thank you, Mr. Lopez, and good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council. As the Council will recall, over the past year and a half, the city's been working on a comprehensive assessment of the public transportation services that the city provides the community. This process has included extensive analysis, the solicitation of public engagement and input, and the careful consideration of potential options by staff and the City Council. The item before you this evening is the culmination of those efforts and is being presented in the form of proposed amendments to the scope of service for transportation services in Cerritos. Our objective this evening is to obtain authorization from the Council to solicit proposals for the operation, maintenance, and management of future transit services based on the proposed amendments before you. This time, I'd like to direct your attention to the screen for my presentation. I'd like to first provide brief background as to how we arrived at this point. At the January 25th City Council meeting, the Council reviewed a comprehensive transit assessment that was completed by the city's transportation consultant, Moore & Associates. Based on the Council's review of that assessment, staff was directed to modify the existing Cerritos on Wheels fixed route service in order to provide an on-demand service for the general public that included service to the Metro Green Line and the Norwalk Santa Fe Springs Metrolink stations. We were also directed to continue to maintain a separate, standalone demand response dial-a-ride transportation service for Cerritos seniors and persons with disabilities, and to solicit proposals for the operation of both services based on the amended scope of work. In light of that direction, staff has worked in conjunction with Moore & Associates to establish updated service parameters for the city's transportation services that can be incorporated into a potential request for proposals for contractors to implement and operate. In order to effectively identify transit service parameters that meet the needs of the community, a substantial outreach program needed to be completed to receive input from the city's transit users. And to that end, staff undertook a rigorous outreach program that included community engagement, the development of an online survey, as well as the conduct of multiple in-person community workshops. The survey and workshops were advertised through the city's communication channels, and members of the public were invited to provide public comments via telephone or email if they were not able to attend an in-person event. Through those efforts, the city was fortunate to receive a robust response from the community, with many of the comments and suggestions being incorporated into the updated service design. Moore & Associates developed a memorandum which was included as part of the staff report. That memo outlined the key components of the transit service adjustments that are being recommended in light of the City Council's direction. And this slide here just highlights some of those points, the details of which I'll get into as we move forward. The next two slides relate to the scope of service recommendations for the dial-a-ride service, which, as you'll recall, serves Cerritos residents age 55 or older and residents with a disability. As proposed, the existing service is to remain largely unchanged, as the results of the study concluded that the service is currently meeting the needs of the community. One recommendation to improve the service is to provide transportation to destinations on both sides of each boundary street of the Tier 1 service area, which can be implemented without any additional cost or impact to the program. Additionally, when we do go out to bid, it is recommended that the city seek a transit contractor who can offer booking and payment options via a phone reservation system, smartphone app, or website. Finally, and perhaps the most notable proposed change to the dial-a-ride is a modest fare adjustment that would increase the fare for Tier 2 trips by $3 and by $4 for Tier 3 trips, with no recommended changes in fares for Tier 1. And this change is being proposed in order to help the city keep pace with inflation and rising labor costs. As it relates to the cow, more significant changes are recommended in response to the council's direction. Those recommendations would result in a new general public on-demand service that would transition the existing Cerritos on Wheels fixed route bus service to an on-demand reservation-based system. Similar to the dial-a-ride service, it is recommended that the selected contractor have the capacity to allow for trip reservations to be made via a smartphone, website, or call-in system. An important benefit of an on-demand service that I'd like to highlight is that riders will have more direct service to local destinations with a corner-to-corner drop-off pickup service model rather than designated fixed route stops. Proposed hours of operation for this service are Monday through Friday from 7 to 7, Saturday from 9 to 5, with no service on Sundays or city holidays. Based on the points of interest identified through the community engagement process, it is recommended that the service area for the general public on-demand service be bounded by Alondra Boulevard to the north, Valley View to the east, Del Amo Boulevard to the south, and Palo Verde to the west. It should be noted that all trips taken must either originate or end in the city of Cerritos. Also, based on council direction, additional peak hour stops will also be provided to the Metro Green Line station and the Norwalk Santa Fe Springs Metrolink station in the city of Norwalk. The city provided notice of this evening's public hearing in accordance with applicable posting and publication standards through publication of the notice in the Los Cerritos Community News and on the city's designated posting boards. Staff also provided email notification on October 11th to the over 500 individuals who've registered on the city's public interest list. The recommendations presented this evening for the city's updated transit operations have been provided in an effort to efficiently meet the needs of the community and to provide the community with greater access to public transportation at an affordable cost. With that, it is staff's recommendation that the City Council approve the scope of services outlined within the agenda report for the cow and dial-a-ride services and direct staff to initiate the request for proposals process in consultation with Moore & Associates to solicit proposals for the implementation of the proposed updates to the city's transit services. If directed by the City Council to proceed accordingly, staff anticipates release of the RFP in early 2025 with an anticipated implementation of new services by the spring or summer next year. I'm joined this evening by Mr. Jim Moore of Moore & Associates and Ms. Mariel Angelis, Community Development Management Analyst. Mr. Moore and Ms. Angelis have worked closely with Director of Community Development Manager Kristen Aguila and Advanced Planning Manager Sabrina Chan to bring this project forward, and I'm thankful for their support this evening. This concludes my presentation, and we'd be happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan, for the report. His council has comments for staff.
Just real quick, in regards to the RFP, you said early 2025. There's no way to do it earlier than that? Is that just the time frame we're stuck on right now?
I think we would anticipate getting started with it as soon as the council provides us direction to do that. We're here late October, early November. It's going to take us a little bit of time to get that pulled together. Yep. And so I would anticipate it's probably realistic that we would have it ready to go by early January.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Mr. Betters?
When you were going through your analysis, as far as you went, I was just informed, I think day before yesterday, that Menlo Park is negotiating with Tesla to go ahead and provide a driverless car as a taxi. And I guess what I'm curious is, have we looked at using Prop A and C funds, and one, if it's legal, two, with Uber, Lyft, and also now with what Tesla is proposing, instead of using the bus and the dial-a-ride? Because right now, if I understand it, there's many times where there's no one on the bus outside the driver, and the average I heard is like three people.
Right.
And if that's true, because I really haven't seen any numbers in a long time, is that under consideration during this process also?
I can begin by answering that, and I'll defer to our Mr. Moore, our consultant. Prop A and C funds would be used to fund these services, and the model would be similar to Uber and Lyft, but would be separately operated by a contracted operator. We did look at the possibility of contracting with Uber and Lyft, but those options are not fully available. So with proceeding with that, they would be funded through Prop A and C, and I can defer to Mr. Moore to elaborate on that.
Okay, well, before you do, then, if that's the case on Uber and Lyft, Menlo Park obviously is looking at it the same way that we are. So we should be able to look at, and speak with Tesla and see if they're willing to go ahead and look at a model where they do negotiate directly with us and access, charging against our Prop A and C funds, if that's the case.
Well, thank you for your question, Council Member, and good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council members. Appreciate the opportunity to visit with you again today. I fully expect, Council Member, that once the RFP is ready to release, that we will endeavor to have as broad a distribution of that RFP as possible, which would include not only traditional public transit consulting operations firms, but also Uber, Lyft, and any other private sector firm, such as Tesla, to consider doing business with the city of Cerritos.
I was just encouraged that we probably would go a little bit further and reach out and contact them, because my experience with proposals, in areas that are brand new, things may not go to the right place or whatever it is. I think just the actual fact that they had a phone call from Menlo Park to reach out and for us to be the same thing. I mean, we're not talking about too many firms that are capable of doing this.
Well, the city would actually be at an advantage by releasing the RFP in early January, because January 1st and July 1st are traditionally the busiest times for contractors to make business development decisions. So we will kind of avoid that end-of-year crush or end-of-year competition. But I and my firm have maintained a database, a current database of all potential bidders that we would use not only on behalf of Cerritos, but that we use with other clients. And we don't just mail out or send a blind email. I also personally contact potential bidders.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else have questions? If it's not, I will open up we will open now the public comment period. You have 3 minutes allowed for each speaker to speak. Do we have anyone like to speak? Do we have any cards on these things? Speakers. Brian Tom. Long time no see, Brian.
Thank you. Good evening and happy Thursday, Mayor Solanke, City Council, staff, transit team, and community. Just first things first, I just want to say thank you. I've been sitting back here just smiling at the professional leadership, the respect, the communication, the kindness, just everybody working together. So thank you to everybody here. I'm here today basically to express my gratitude, to advocate for the best transit programs for a community, especially for the disabled and senior community, and to just provide a couple of recommendations that I feel would better serve the disabled and senior community. Who am I? I'm Brian Tom, resident 52 years, business owner and community leader 32 years in Cerritos, and a dial-a-ride passenger for 32 years as well. And so I'm in that sandwich generation where not only am I blind and I have a heart condition, but I have an 8-year-old. And so providing for my family, and then I also have 2 seniors, my parents. My dad's 81, he's blind with dementia, and my mom's only 5 years younger and having some challenges as well. So dial-a-ride has been, I was joking with some of the staff saying that I think I have the world record for the most dial-a-rides in a day and in a year, but it's been such a blessing. I use it for all parts of my life. Imagine going blind at age 20, I'm now 53, and I would not be here if not for the blessings of these types of services from our city and community. So a couple of recommendations that I wanted to ask for. consideration. One would be just to make sure that the new app and website is fully ADA compliant, because being a blind person, you know, I've had a lot of experience where sometimes it's not fully compliant, and when you can't see and you cannot see well, you know, that's going to be hard. Okay, so that's number one. Number two is consideration for the dial ride to maybe start at 7 a.m. on Mondays through Fridays instead of 8 a.m. Why? Because for many of us that have a lot of medical appointments, you know, a lot of times we have lab tests and we have to fast, and so we have to get to the lab first thing in the morning, which opens up sometimes at 7 a.m. or definitely by 8 a.m., right? And so if dial ride doesn't start till 8 a.m., you can't get there until closer to maybe 8:30, 9 a.m. And so that would be, I think, a very helpful time frame to start at 7 a.m. Mondays through Fridays would be helpful. Thirdly is just to reemphasize that the disabled community and a lot of the senior community are on a fixed income. And I know that from certain perspectives, of course, with the cost of increased expenses and inflation, I understand Tier 2 going on dial ride from $2 to $5 may not seem like much, but if I can share an example for you. So for example, my parents, right, they're always together doing their best, right? And then I'm also disabled myself, blind, but I'm trying to help be a part of that care providership, right? So the way it would work then is, say they have multiple doctor's appointments in a day or in a week. Let's just say 6 per week, okay? So if the new fare is $5, that's for the first person. The PCA, the personal care assistant, is free. Then the companion is $5. So now that's $10 each way. So 10, and then get back is 10. So now it's 20, right? If you have multiple appointments in a day, say 2, now that's $40. If you have 3 appointments in a week like that, you know, you're looking at, what, 40, about $120 a week, you know, then times 4, I mean, you're looking at $500 a month, right? And I get it, because I'm a business person as well. But what I would recommend is, you know, if we're doing apples to apples, right, the on-demand is like Lyft or Uber, but the dial ride is like Access, right, which is for the disabled. So Access LA currently is $275 per trip. Access OC, which is $360 per trip, okay? Yes, PCA is free. Second, the companion is the same fare, so it would be $275 plus $275, right? So that's basically, what, $550? And then $360 and $360. So I would recommend if we could get closer to that model in terms of fare, or if maybe that companion could be free as well, since you would have a lot of seniors where you would have, you know, them trying to really work together for safety and accessibility. So that would be just my 2 recommendations. I'm so happy and blessed to have dial ride, and we are in our community, but, you know, being somebody who has used dial ride so much for the past 30 years, you know, I do have a lot of experience. I do have a lot of perspective. I do wear my many hats of being a resident, a business owner, a community leader, and a passenger. And so I want to speak up for those that are not speaking up, that are disabled or from the senior community, to help them because they are on a fixed income. Lastly, just thank you again for your compassion, for your leadership, and mostly, in the words of Mark Twain, for your kindness, because kindness is the language that the deaf can hear and the blind can see. Thank you and good night.
Thank you, Tom. Next we have is Joe Sally.
Good evening, City Council. I'm Joe Solly, resident for 48 years, and I do use public transportation. Not regularly, but I've used it to go to usually Uber or Lyft, and I'm happy to hear that we're going to an on-demand system, because like most of us, we've seen those cow buses, and there's a lot of times they're empty. And you know, the transit needs in Cerritos are maybe different than other cities, and perhaps it would work best as an on-demand system. So I'm happy to hear that. I could see myself using it maybe to go to the Green Line station or to the Metrolink station. I've done that recently. I think it's been like $30 to come from the Green Line station to Cerritos. So it could be a good saving. Sometimes I've used Uber or Lyft if I'm trying to get a ride back from dropping my car off to be serviced, or other times I've been come into town on the Amtrak in Fullerton. I've used the OCTA. It's dropped me off right in front of Shadow Park, and I've walked the rest of the way. So I haven't had an opportunity to attend the other workshops. I'm happy to hear that we're moving in a more efficient direction here. And perhaps that's the bulk of what I wanted to share. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Anyone else like to speak on this item? Seeing none, we will close the public hearing item on this item 8B. Bring it back for council for any more question or comments.
All right, I have some.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor. To staff, when you say corner to corner, it's not obviously door to door. You say door to door. So corner to corner, like if it's a residential tract, they have to walk down to like the major boulevard and the first residential tract, or how's that work?
That's correct, Mayor Pro Tem. The idea is that rather than walking to a specific bus stop on an arterial street, they would walk to close to the arterial street, but likely inside the track, basically a safe area outside of the public
So it
traffic.
won't be like a designated corner somewhere. They'll call and say that this is the closest arterial to my residential.
Correct.
Okay, so that's want to make sure like these aren't like bus stops that they have to go to. These
They would be
actual-
directed, geographically where, the intersection of that street to walk to.
Okay, and I actually think this, before I go into the dollar ride, I think this service is a huge improvement from the cow, because one of the things that I know parents that have kids that go to school, they used to use the cow, but then since COVID, the schedule changed, so they weren't able to use it. And for $2 one way, I think that's a great deal. I think most parents were like, hey, that's better than paying somebody, $5-10, because I know some parents do that just so they can get their kids dropped off at school. That's only like a couple miles away. So I think it's great. The only question I have, though, if this becomes popular and parents starts using this, is this going to be allowed for kids to be picked up, minors? Because I know Uber has a policy on that, right? Is this something that kids can use?
Thank you for your question, Council Member. The decision on what the minimum age is has yet to be determined. I mean, I think it will somewhat depend on what the bids are in terms of operating costs and how much service we can afford to put on the street, so that we can also make sure that the service is spread equitably across the community for all community members, and not just to make it into a immediate replacement for a school bus service. But I don't anticipate, I mean, there are some questions as to minimum age, and I would like to come back to staff and provide some recommendations based on what other communities are doing.
Yeah, and then that was my next question, is if this does become popular and parents use this as a service, because this is not a money-making service for us.
That's correct.
It's actually something that, we'll probably have to subsidize, right? So, but the company that's out there, they're making money.
Mm-hmm.
So they're going to probably want to service as many people as they can to make the money. On our end, though, if this becomes popular, let's say parents start using it as a way to pick up their kid because they have to work, or a way to pick drop off and pick up, will there be enough vehicles to accommodate those requests? Because I mean that's a scheduling thing where, and again, we're not in the service for the school district, but let's be realistic. parents are going to use it if they're allowed to. And so if they're going to use it, the next thing is they expect to have that service. And if they call and because so many kids are using it, that might be a problem.
I appreciate your question. A great real-life example is the city of Monrovia, which was one of the early adopters of this on-demand sort of Uber model service. And over the last 3+ years, the city of Monrovia has had to make a number of policy changes in terms of the area served, the pricing model. They've also gone to a tiered system of pricing depending upon time of day, which is certainly something that's also available here. And they've also at times had to put a limit as to the number of rides that any resident individual could use within a stipulated period of time. So I think those are all lessons that we, will benefit from and also kind of see as we roll this out, assuming that there's council approval of the proposed RFP. I think there are lessons that we will learn and we will be able to use to help match demand with available resources.
I think I appreciate that you said that because it's, when we provide service here in Cerritos, it's hard to go back. And so to use those lessons learned from other cities is so important for us because we want to provide what we can afford to provide and then have that standard initially, because once we put it out there and provide all this and then realize, oh, this is going to be a huge cost to the city, and then we start, backtracking, it's going to be difficult.
And I understand and appreciate what you're saying. I always talk to our clients about financial sustainability. Yes, we want to have a program out there, a service out there that's popular, that's quality, but we also want to make sure that's not the greatest thing for 6 months, and then we run out of money.
And that's exactly, and I wrote that on my notepad, which just says, we have to have fees that are reasonable to sustain it in the long run because, like you said, for 6 months it's great, but after that, no one else can use it. So I'm glad that you said that, and it's important for us to sustain it with the appropriate amount of fees and how much the city can subsidize.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then going to Dollar Ride, Brian brought a good point. I didn't realize, so we're charging per rider, not per vehicle.
Correct.
They go pick up somebody.
Correct.
Even though that vehicle only goes and picks up one or picks up one group of people and goes to the same location, cost-wise, it's still probably cheaper than Uber, but if they're still going to make that trip anyways.
Well, historically, we have not had a lot of what I would call subscription trips or clustered trips where we go out to, say, a senior housing complex and we take 5 or 7 people to a grocery store or to a doctor's office or something like that. I think we can work to do better in the future to do that. But the personalized service that we provide through the Dollar Ride, is rather high level. It's really comparable to a taxi in many ways at a much lower fee. Mm-hmm. And there are also, as we said, some sort of, I don't use the word, maybe special circumstances where we, allow a companion or an escort or someone like that, of that nature, to also accompany the person, our primary traveler. But we will continue to look at this if council provides a direction to move forward, look at some of the lessons learned in other communities. I'll certainly take another look at Access LA's latest fare policies and fare pricing model.
Yeah, and if it's something we're going to look at where if the group originate from one location and ends up in the same location, the vehicle's going to travel that way anyways. And why charge a companion if everyone's going that way? That the gas is going to be used, and maybe that's something we can put in there. And again, I don't know if that's something that's practical and it's feasible to sustain the system, but something to think about. And if they pick up someone on the way, obviously that's going to be a different rate for them.
Well, where we have been successful, and I know not talking about Cerritos, but I'll talk for Santa Clarita, for instance, where we've been successful with that, sir, is by having agreements with our customers or an understanding with our customers that, we will come out to a designated location, senior housing, for instance, on a particular day or number of days in a week at a particular time and take as many people as, we can, safely transport. Where we get killed in the industry is going out at 9 o'clock and then 9:15 and then 9:30, to the same location, basically to take the person over to the grocery store. But if we can say, okay, every Tuesday at 9 o'clock, we're going to, take as many folks as we can transport safely, express over to this location, and you don't have to arrange a return, make a call for a return ride, because as part of the package, we will be back at the grocery store an hour later to take you all back to the initial point. And that also would potentially result in some cost savings, not only for us as the city as a provider, but also potentially for our customers.
Okay, thank you. And then the last thing, I'm sorry, is that this service is for our community, for our residents, so let's provide it during the time frame that they may need it. So when Brian says that 7 a.m. is probably more realistic time and the community can use it, the whole point of this whole thing is for our residents to use. And so let's put that schedule where it's more practical for them. So if that's something we can look at as well.
Thank you. I made notes here of Mr. Tom's comments. Mr. Tom and I have had several conversations throughout the course of this project. I'm very appreciative of the insights that he brings as a longtime customer. I've also had the honor of speaking with his parents, who I know for whom he's a caregiver, and also a user of the Dollarite service.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Yes, please. Thank you. Okay, so thank you for the report. And this is a very important service to our residents. Public transportation is very important to our community, to our residents. And I'm glad that we are being forward-thinking and looking at best practices at other cities that have gone through this. So thank you. And I do want to first, thank Mr. Tom for sharing and speaking about this very important service. He's the spokesperson for all of the residents, the thousands of residents, if not more, who depend on this public transportation or are going to be future customers of this public transportation. So I completely agree with Mr. Tom about taking a good look at the starting hour. That when he mentioned the need to start earlier, he mentioned 7 a.m. I just quickly took a look at our city facilities. And for example, our senior center opens at 7:30 a.m. Our Cerritos Swim Center opens at 6 a.m. So potentially our residents can use, our senior residents and our residents with disabilities can use Dial-A-Ride to go to the senior center or swim centers at this earlier time. So thanks again for your comments, Mr. Tom, and I'm glad like you said, you took it all down so we can consider the optimal hours. And taking that into account for the RFP is, I'm looking forward to what you get for us, but I'm wondering, initially, are we looking at a contract with a vendor that's fixed as opposed to variable based on the ridership? What is it in your experience? What is Monrovia doing? Is it a fixed cost that the city pays the vendor, or is it variable based on ridership?
Council member, in the last, say, probably 4 or 5 years, most operations contractors have moved to a hybrid pricing model that includes both a monthly fixed fee as well as a variable fee based on activity level. In some cases, it's the number of hours that the services provide, the number of vehicle hours that they provide. In some cases, it's by the ride. And I would fully expect that we, the city of Cerritos, as we put out this RFP, assuming, council direction, that we will probably end up with bidders who will also require, or highly suggest some sort of fixed fee.
Thank you. And, what was helpful to me was the tables that showed the existing service and the recommended service. And I know the recommended service, all these things are not set in stone.
Correct.
They're preliminary recommendations, including the pricing. And I am concerned about the pricing, Mr. Tom, because we have many residents who are on a fixed budget, and to them, a couple of dollars matter. And we're talking about per ride, not per day, not per week, not per month. We're talking about per ride. And that's why the dollars might matter. And that's why the contract with the vendor matters, and whether it's fixed or variable or hybrid. But one thing that riders have become used to is Uber and Lyft is the price is on the app, and it doesn't matter how many riders there are up to the allowable limit. So when we bring out this Cerritos on Wheels Uber Lyft-like method, if we're going to charge per person versus per
vehicle,
per group, we're going to have to have our residents wrap their heads around that. Because when they order a Uber or Lyft within our city, it's per ride. When they order the Cerritos on Wheels, if it's per person, it's going to be multiplied by the fare. You know?
And I appreciate your questions and your points. I mean, there's what was presented in the memo was the very basics on a pricing model. And of course, the caveat is, being able to put the RFP out on the street and see how the market responds, and then that really dictates what your costs are. However, there's a lot of other alternatives that are beyond just simply the one ride fee. I mean, some communities offer for eligible parties, whether maybe it's income based or maybe it's age based, an opportunity to buy, in essence, a book of tickets, electronic book of tickets that in advance for a discount that they can use, which brings the fare down. So there are other things that we can consider as we, assuming council concurs and authorizes staff to go forward with the RFP process, we can look at all these other pricing opportunities. Again, learning from what other communities have done and how they've been successful, or in fact, maybe have not been successful.
What is Monrovia doing in terms of charge for per person or per ride, or is that a longer, complicated answer?
Well, it is somewhat of a complicated answer, but I will do my best to at least give you the Reader's Digest version. I mean, what Monrovia has done now is come up with a tiered system, not unlike what Uber does with their rides, where you get sort of the black car service, or you get the the basic car service. You pay more for maybe a more luxury vehicle or things like that. So they've come up with a basic service. They've also come up with an opportunity for more of an advanced reservation. They've also come up with a model that allows you just to say, well, I just want to be, I want to be alone and just be taken to the destination. So these are all things that we can consider, I think, as we get closer to, knowing what the actual market costs will be.
Yeah, and a comment I'll make, not a question, is I'm glad you mentioned ticket books, something like that, because I was thinking, what about passes, a week-long pass, a multi-day pass, a monthly pass? How would that work? So I'm glad you're thinking about those things, and maybe the RFP will capture that, either because it's in the RFP or because the vendor suggests it, or eventually the city council might talk about it.
I hope this goes with it. I'll say it. I hope it would go without having to be said. Is that first and foremost, we want a quality service, but we also want one that's financially sustainable. But beyond that, this is a community service. It's not a private company. We're not looking to make a profit, but we're also make sure that there's some implied value for the service being provided.
And one more thing about the fact that we're comparing this to the Uber Lyft model, you're in the recommendation column for the Cerritos on Wheels, we talk about the vehicles being minivans. And I'm taking that to be, again, a preliminary recommendation because, Uber and Lyft doesn't just have minivans, and you could picture the single person, the one person requesting the ride. They don't need a minivan. They just need a passenger car. So we might have a vendor who only has minivans. We might have who's only providing minivans. We might have a vendor who's providing a fleet of vehicles. And I do see in that same section, you wrote flexible number of vehicles based on demand during peak and non-peak hours. I could see that being different types of vehicles based on the need of the rider. So I saw that you chose the word minivans, but it's hard for me to imagine a Cerritos on Wheels Uber Lyft type program that's just minivans.
I agree with you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none?
I'll make a motion, staff recommendation.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, we have motion and second.
Motion is made by Mayor Pro Tem Vo and seconded by Councilmember Johnson to approve staff's recommendation. And the motion passes on a vote of 5-0.
Thank you all. Next item under the new and old business, 9A.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the City Council. Item 9A relates to the installation of a new art piece that was directed by the City Council. We're providing an update on the status and are also seeking direction regarding location. The presentation this evening will be given by Ms. Matsumoto, and following her presentation, she and I would be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Lopez. Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council, as you may recall, the City Council approved a new historical art piece earlier this year. The art piece depicts a dairy farmer at work surrounded by 2 children and a dog. The City Council reviewed and approved the commission of the artwork in the amount of $280,000 and directed staff to bring back additional information as it related to the contract, the artwork design with the requested modifications, proposed locations, and costs associated with the final installation of the historical art piece. As you can see on the screen, this is the proposal that was reviewed and conceptually approved at that time. At this time, staff is presenting the City Council with the requested information for further action. The contract was presented to the City Council on July 25th. This was reviewed by the Council and approved. During the review of milking time, several modifications were requested by the City Council. The first was that the cow's head should be lifted from the ground. As you can see in this on the screen, the head of the cow has been resculpted to show the face at a level where the patrons have the opportunity to pet or to touch the face of the cow. The second request by City Council was to replace the cat with a dog. The artist has replaced the cat with a small dog. It was also requested that the Dairy Valley logo be incorporated on the feed bag as a way to customize the art piece for our community. Staff has provided the artist with a photo of a sign featuring a logo that was used by a local dairy during the 1950s time period. The artist has agreed to create a logo based on the font design and the dairy logo, which will be incorporated on the feed bag. The final thing that the council requested on the artwork was that the sculpture accurately reflect the time period of Dairy Valley. The artist has been researching the clothing, the hairstyles, tools, equipment, and other visible items that may have been used in the 1950s era to accurately reflect and incorporate those references on the piece. The next slides are showing the progress photos of milking time currently. These photos, you can get the idea of the size and the mass of the artwork and how it is taking shape. It is anticipated that the artwork will be completed in approximately 1 year from now. The next item that the City Council requested was a review of proposed locations for milking time. Staff researched possible locations for the artwork placement. The footprint of the artwork is about 6.5 feet by 8.5 feet wide and requires a flat area for the installation of the 5 pieces. 2 possible locations the staff looked at were at Cerritos Park East and the Civic Center, which are being presented for the council consideration tonight. CPE is a location that the artwork could be placed on a property that reflects our history. It was formerly a dairy, and it is currently under city ownership. After researching the historic city maps, it was determined that CEP was a dairy property, and it is one of the largest and most popular parks with many sports activities, play areas, picnic shelters, and a community center. It is also adjacent to the Cerritos Olympic Swim Center and the Fitness Center. There are 2 options within the park to consider. The first is located south of the east entrance to the community center on the flat grassy area. The area is visible by staff through the large glass windows and near the parking lot and the play area. The second option is near where a flag is located. This is north of the community center, east entrance, and visible from the street. Both locations have a high volume of foot traffic and staff supervision during park operating hours. Both locations could be monitored by security cameras. The second location that's under consideration is in the Civic Center, which currently has a number of prestigious art pieces installed in the Cerritos Sculpture Garden and throughout the campus. Staff is proposing that either one of the elevated trapezoid-shaped planters between City Hall and the library be considered. They are currently landscaped with a large tree in each planter and low-growing plants. Cameras could also be installed to monitor the artwork at these locations. Staff examined the expenses associated with the installation of this project. Based on previous expenses, staff is estimating that the cost for installing the artwork would be about $104,500. This estimate would vary depending on market conditions, the materials selected, and the complexity of the hardscape and the landscape design. The funding for the project will be from the Arts and Public Places Fund, which currently has a balance of approximately $450,000. These funds are derived from private development and is required as part of the Arts and Public Places program that's defined in Chapter 22.94 of the Cerritos Municipal Code. These funds are restricted are restricted and to be used only for the acquisition, installation, and maintenance of public artwork. Therefore, staff at this time recommends that the City Council approve modifications to milking time that was previously directed by the City Council, select a location for the permanent installation of the artwork, approve the allocation of $104,500 for the installation costs of milking time, and appropriate this amount from the Arts and Public Places Fund. And also, authorize the city manager or his designee to approve any change orders that may become necessary to complete the project discussed in this report, in accordance with the city's adopted purchasing and contracting policy. This concludes my report, and I would be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy, for the report. This council has a question. Do we have any question for staff? No questions, comments? We'll wait for comments. I guess we will open up public comments if anybody in the audience. Seeing none, we'll bring it back. Councilwoman has comments.
So I'm excited. I'm excited about this piece, and I want to thank my council colleagues on their original vote to move forward on a cow sculpture that would best reflect the history of this city. I like the idea of the cow sculpture being placed at the Civic Center. The Civic Center is our seat of government. So when it comes time to make a decision, I'm hoping my colleagues would consider the easternmost planter. That's the one closest to the elevator to be considered. But those are just my thoughts to share. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Barros?
Kathy, is there any reason why we didn't put down that we were looking at potentially right by the elevator? There's no tree to block it. There's higher visibility right there than the other two locations. And of course, we want to keep it away from where somebody could come up and use a plasma cutter and just rip off with it very quickly.
We did not consider, there was no reason why we didn't consider it, but we could consider it.
Okay, I'd be in favor
Closer
right by
to
the
the
elevator. I've we've talked about it over the years too, but with the theft of a number of pieces over the years, I think it's important we keep away from CPE. To me, is that as it becomes dark, and I've walked between that small parking lot on the north side and into the building, from the east side. There's no one out there, and there's virtually no traffic that I've seen population-wise walking. Whereas the Civic Center, there's people there all the time, and I think until we start to turn the tide on people stealing things, we need to be very protective of our investment, and we just can't keep going back to the Joint Powers Insurance Authority and trying to recover things that we don't even have cameras on it. So, and I would only vote for this if we have a camera system in place before it's installed. To me, I hate risking this much money, even though it's not a tax on the public, but it's generated as a fee from development. And so I've been in support of that in fact, from the very start. But what I want to be sure we do is we do as much as we can to protect it and have it as visible as possible. And to me, the other location would be, the one that would ensure that, versus the two that we have that's on the slide right now, that I'm looking at.
Okay.
I have some comments.
All right, go ahead.
Thank you, Kathy. So I agree too that I would prefer to have it at City Hall, just because the risk factor at CPE, but also because we have the sculpture garden that's nearby. So when people show up to the sculpture garden, they expect to see some artwork throughout the City Hall too. I think that'd be a great supplement to that. But I'm good with any of those locations. Another location, I think you and I talked about it, Kathy, a while ago was where the down tree is in that grassy area. Just because, people will see it right away when they're driving through, and that's kind of the area where kids kind of gather anyways. Just, it'd be a nice picnic area. You have a cow that's getting milked, type of thing. So that's just another location. I know we kind of talked about it. I don't know if you remember, but we were outside looking at the fountain, and we said, well, what about that grassy area right there? That's kind of just has a tree that's down, but now that tree is almost gone, right? That little section that's kind of deteriorated. I don't know, we can just remove that and put that statue there. But again, I'm open to any location in the Civic Center, but that's just another location that I thought would be something where nothing's really blocking it. People drive right by, they'll see it. At the elevator, I think it's safer, but then they'll have to actually walk there to see it. I think it'd be nice just to be able to see it.
We have pieces right near it.
Yeah.
On both locations.
Mm-hmm. So I'm open to any location. So just throwing out another idea. So
Are we required to select a location today? Are we able to move forward on the staff report and maybe decide on a location later?
We came up with recommendations for a location, and if there's interest in looking at others, we'd be happy to explore those and then come back to get, further direction.
Okay. Only because I'd like to see what Chung was talking about and kind of drive through and just imagine a cow over there.
Yeah, there's no need to decide tonight.
Okay.
If you want us to explore options closer to the elevator, we can present those at an upcoming meeting.
and we wouldn't remove that tree that's there. We were put it into that planter area, right?
We would look at locations that would minimize impact on the existing landscape and to take into account access and so forth.
Okay, thank you.
If we're going to go down that path, why not just go ahead and have our staff place the sculpture inside each location so we can see it right at scale? And so you don't have to sit and try to imagine it, but you actually see how that affects the landscaping from a couple of perspectives, which, with computers now, it's very easy, to do that. And I think with AI use, it's going to be even easier. You just have to describe it, and there it is.
Okay, any more comments, questions? Seeing none, then council actions.
Is this a receive and file with direction, or it's already been approved? We just need to give direction. That's it, right?
I've received direction to come back with options for additional consideration.
So
with photo sims and other images.
There's no need for a motion then, right?
Received and filed then, I guess.
There's no need for a motion. I think the direction was clear.
Okay, thank you. Sir. Next item is item 10A.
Wait,
We do need approval for the budget portion of the item.
oh, I apologize. Yes, the
You
budget
move,
portion.
move approval for the budget part.
Second.
Okay.
I'm sorry, we also need to approve the modifications so that the artist can proceed with completing the artwork.
Okay, so
I-
it's a modification and
That's part of my
all in there.
motion then.
Yes.
If I could provide, Bruce, it would be to approve number 1, 3, and 4 of staff recommendation.
Is that good, Bruce?
Yes.
Okay.
I agree too.
All right. We all agree. That's
And we have a motion on the floor made by Councilmember Barrows, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Vo to approve staff recommendations 1, 3, and 4. I believe the electronic voting has been activated. And the motion passes on a vote of 5-0.
all right. Next item is the item 10A, legislative item.
Thank you, Mayor. We do not have any legislative items to present under either 10A or 10B this evening.
All right. 11A.
Yes, just a brief report. Staff recently conducted, with the help of our consultant, 2 strategic planning workshops, community engagement workshops that were attended by residents of Cerritos. While those workshops have concluded and we are preparing to present information to the City Council at the November 4th City Council meeting, we do have a community survey still available on our website. So I'd just like to announce that residents can visit cerritos.gov/strategy and fill out a questionnaire if they haven't done so yet. And that's it for tonight, Mayor.
Thank you.
11B, council communication. I'll start with Linda Johnson.
Thank you. Attended the League of Cities conference, which was held in Long Beach last week. I also went to the 3rd annual Diwali festival along with Mayor Solanki. Congratulations to Radha Krishna Mandir on another successful event. And I also attended the Artesia Cerritos Rotary dinner, which recognized our first responders, especially our own Cerritos Sheriff Deputy Osvaldo Martinez. So thank you, Drew Strong, for you and your team for attending. That's it.
Thank you. Frank?
Thank you. So given the hour, I'll report at the next meeting. But I did want to please let the residents of Cerritos know that the celebration of life of Loretta Perlas, who passed away on September 12, 2024, the mother of Cerritos Planning Commissioner Gloria Perlas Polito. Visitation is tomorrow, Friday, October 25, 2024, in the Cypress Room of Forest Lawn Memorial in Cypress from 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. And the funeral, mass, and interment is on Saturday, October 26th in the Patriot Chapel at 11:30 a.m. Proceeding to the Garden of Protection with a reception to follow. And thank you to the City Council and to the City of Cerritos for the generous flowers that were sent on behalf of the City of Cerritos in loving memory of Loretta Perlas. Thank you.
Thank you. Bruce?
I'll follow Frank's lead by keeping it really short. Just 2 items. A meeting that we had with staff on the boards and commissions and committees handbook. How soon should we expect that from the staff? Because I think with all the staff that we had, I think we had all but one department head, making final suggestions, and it should be coming to us.
We be prepared to present that to the City Council at the first meeting of December, which is December 2nd.
Okay, so there's the date for it. Now, the other part is with the strategic planning, I received a email from Wallet Hub ranking cities based on a number of categories. A score, so there's affordability rank, which of course our expenses are going to be high to buy a property here. Economic health rank, education health rank, quality of life rank, and safety rank. Out of all the cities, if you're to look at it, it's a long sheet with a lot of cities on it. But if we're looking at how to judge our city, and we're outside of looking to bring a business into California, I want to go back to the Cosmont Rose Institute survey. We used to be the 3rd lowest expensive city, to have a business in. We're now way down the list on their report, but the one by Wallet Hub, I forgot to count the number of things, but it's more than 40 names on cities on a page. Our city is on page 16. And, there's cities that are smaller than us. There's other California cities that are smaller than we are and larger that rank higher than we do. And I would think that if we're going to look at our city, we should be up near the top on this. And I know all of us think very highly of our city, and we've done very well. But for some reason or others, when they're judging, we're missing the mark. So we need to find out how they judge and how we can improve our ranking on it. And what I'd like to do is ask that Council concur that we have staff provide this to all of us as soon as possible so we can look at it and prepare when we do the strategic plan, look at incorporating this into the evaluation of how our city is making progress.
I concur.
I
Yes.
do as well.
That's it.
That's it. Thank you.
Mr. Wolf?
Thank you. Just real quick, I attended the JPIA risk seminar in Indian Wells. I also, while at the Cal City conference in Long Beach, I also attended the LA County Selection Committee, which did not have a quorum. And so we really didn't get much, well, we got half of the things done. But unfortunately, even though almost every city was at the Cal City across the street, they weren't able to come over to make a quorum. And we were in the city of Long Beach, and Long Beach wasn't there. So anyways, moving forward. I also attended the first CEB golf tournament and presented the Meritorious Marine with a proclamation representing the city council. And then I also attended the La Palma State of the City, and that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. First I have is I would like to invite the community out to the city's annual Halloween festival, which will be taking place on Thursday from 5 to 9 p.m. in the parking lot of Cerrito Mall. For the more information, please contact Recreation Service at 562-916-1254, and he has a flyer for every residence. And also our Diwali, actually, it's on October 31st. And our New Year starts actually half a day of 31st and half day 1st. So New Year's is on 1st. So I'd like to wish everyone happy Diwali and a happy New Year's. With that, we have closed session. Oh, sorry. Councilman.
Yes, I do. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have one last consensus request from my colleagues. Back in 2023, you guys were kind enough to give me consensus on Operation Greenlight. That was the program to light up our city buildings with green lights to acknowledge our veterans during Veterans Day week. But I'd like to make a modification to that request. If I could just light up only the infinity sculpture at the Sculpture Garden with green lights for 5 days from November 9 through November 13 each year to honor our veterans. That's the request I'd like to ask my council colleagues if they would like to help.
But do we know what the cost is going to be on that?
There should be no cost. The lights on that sculpture can be programmed to be a variety of
Green?
colors,
Okay.
including green.
I concur. Sounds good.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, Mr. City Attorney, we
Yes.
have a closed session.
Yes, thank you, Mayor and members of the council. Tonight, we have 5 closed session items. Item 12A, hopefully they will go by quickly. Item 12A, public employee appointment pursuant to California Government Code Section 54957, Subdivision B for the title Position of City Clerk. Items 12B and 12C are conference with labor negotiators pursuant to California Government Code Section 54957.6. Agency negotiators Robert Lopez, City Manager Drew Schneider, Director of Administrative Services Amy Thomas, Enterprise Services Manager and Joseph Larson from the City Attorney's Office. Item 12B is for Employee Organization AFSCME Local 619, and 12C, unrepresented employees full-time exempt. And items 12D and 12E are public employee performance evaluations pursuant to California Government Code Section 54957. 12D is for the City Manager, and 12E is for the City Attorney. And with that, we can recess to closed session.
All right, we recess to closed session.